Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host Mark, and we got an exciting, fast-paced episode. First person to pop into the chat and say hello wins a high five in the Discord. So quickly get that. It's a highly valued prize. Welcome to the chat. Joining me today is Christian.
Hey guys, excited to talk about Mongols and motorcycles, two of my favorite things.
Yeah. You know, I had the Who blasting all day, that one song.
Just the one song.
Yeah, you know, just to really get me in the vibe of Mongols and motorcycle. We also got Court to the show. Welcome.
Yeah, good to be here. Very excited. I know almost nothing about what we're going to talk about, and it's going to be great. Very excited.
Yeah, I feel like that's the vibe, and I wonder, Christian, if you feel the same way. I feel like everyone I talked to kind of didn't really know anything about Jaghatai Khan, the Primarch that we're going to be talking about today, or they were like obsessed where it's like, oh, okay, so you like live there and stuff. You moved there because of this guy.
You live in Mongolia now, yes.
Yeah.
What I think I know is from old lore. So let's see. I haven't really kept up with any of the new stuff because he's had a whole novel and everything come out, and like he's been featured in the Horse Heresy books. So we'll see if anything's changed from what I remember.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, they always add some stuff, of course, as adding to the lore will do. Sometimes I really like these guys, and it always catches me how much I do a Primarch episode and I like the guy at the end of it, even though I'm like, I fucking hate Primarchs, but it's the way, that's the way it goes.
Good writing. That's good. Yeah. That's good character development on GW. You gotta say, you know.
Yeah, those bastards get me every time, and then I get into that addictive buy the miniatures cycle, and it's vicious, man, with GW. But this isn't that group. That's a different group I do every week. Before we get started on the show and talk about the can, come join the Discord. That's my little thing for the Discord. We do a Discord. Come join the Discord. There's links if you message me on Facebook. Like a link will pop up with links, and there's links in the show description. But come hang out.
Yeah. And join the Imperial Tithe. Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you like the show, if you want to support the show, jump on Patreon and join the Imperial Tithe. $2.50 a month gets you the ad-free version of all the episodes. Don't like ads? I fucking hate ads. If I have to hear Ryan Reynolds talk about his cellular service one more time, I'm going to go crazy. So $2.50 a month, no ads, guys. Check it out. $5
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. $5 a month. Video version of all the episodes. You get to see us. You get to see what we look like, the glorious beards that are on these two gentlemen's faces, and I'm just trying
Not
to
a beautiful
keep up
thing
with the goatee. It's lovely. It's lovely. And there's more.
Yeah, you know,
Christian's going to tell you all
some
about
people. Some people grow hair on the top of their head. Some people are bald and grow it on their beard. You grow it on the side of your head. Like, you grow it everywhere for sure, but it kind of does that way, which I'm a big fan of. You know.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Christian's favorite facial style he's ever had is the fancy Rogel Dorn, where he shaves just this part
just
of
the chin bit. Yeah. I'm debating doing it again. So if you guys, if enough of you join the Patreon and tell me to get myself the Rogel Dorn, I will do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
There you go.
Definitely for the Rogel Dorn episode. Did anyone grow Mongolian hair for this episode?
No, I didn't have enough time to.
I got my go fast hair though, which is usually the case. Like, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got my spiked up hair. It's my go fast hair usually.
Second best is the anime hair, so he's getting there.
If you want to classify it as that, that's fine because we're friends. But if a stranger came up and was like, "Hey, I like your anime hair," I'd be like, "Hang on now.
Those are fighting words.
Hang on, we're not there yet."
Your duty bound.
That's a second.
Non-dual. Yeah.
I mean, it's a compliment. It's cool. It's cool either way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, join the live stream.
Yeah, I know that's a different type of Asian, those guys, but
my God. All right, join the live stream, join the Patreon to access a live chat room too during the show. Be part of this conversation, and you get to even call in at the end of the episode, and you can be part of the show. I don't know many other shows that offer you that. Imagine if you could do a call in on like Joe Rogan or some of the bigger podcasts out there. So we offer that to you for as low as Patreon subscription. So
Joe Rogan, who's your favorite Primarch? Wouldn't you want to know?
I do want to know. I'm curious. I want to know what everyone's favorite Primarchs are.
That would be good. That would be a good little fun show. Start kind of taking guesses.
Yeah. At the end, we'll have to do a poll of what one really sold a Scott to us. What did we learn the most about? But yeah. Well, today we're going to learn about Khan. And in this episode, we've kind of breaking these into 4 episodes, 2 for the Primarch, 2 for the Legion, and the chapter. And in this episode, we're going to talk about his origins, specifically the planet. How'd we go with this one? Chogoris.
Chogoris.
Yeah, we'll talk about Chogoris. It's like full of chocolate milk or something there, like the land of plenty.
That's
Chogoris. We'll
Sounds
talk
like
about
an
his
emotion.
youth. And...
It's like I'm feeling very Chogoris, guys. I think I need to go home. I need to go home.
It's like mixed sleepy, hungry, and like a little bit of like
and farty
slothful.
Or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I'm just feeling a little Chogoris today.
Kind of the exact opposite of what you think a white scar would be, honestly, is the feeling that planet gives me. But we'll talk about Khan growing up on that planet. It's cool, man. One of my favorite things about the Primarchs, what I love the most, is kind of the planet and where they grew up. Each one of them usually is like, I feel like it could be a setting in and of itself where we get its 10 series Primarch thing. It doesn't even have to be attached to 40K in any way. And they just come up with these fun, cool worlds and characters in them. So
it's almost like they should write a book about each planet and each Primarch as they originate. Almost.
No, we don't want that. Remember, this is a mythical time. Yeah. We'll talk about the coming of the Emperor and how the Khan reacted to that. And then we get to the Great Crusade, and the Star Hunters are renamed to the White Scars, and we get into their endeavors. The most interesting part I'm excited to talk about is the Council of Nicaea. This has been mentioned on this show many times. And, we've off the cuff talked about it. But we never actually had some type of script to read to kind of formalize the thoughts. So I'm excited to talk about the Council of Nicaea. And then we'll get into his personality and appearance and war gear and, kind of cut it off right at the flip of the horse heresy type thing.
Yeah. And if you really want to get the vibe of the topic here, you need to listen to it at 1.5 speed because these guys go fast. So I don't think you want us to read fast because we will just be all over the place. It'd be horrible. But if you really want to get the White Scars feel, 1.5 speed. There we go.
Great idea.
Speaking of speed, I'm going to flip off the camera real quick. I got 4 stitches on my middle finger this week because I went a little too fast with my hobby knife when I was hobbying this week. No joke.
Did you add the blood on a mini? That's what we've been dying to know.
So I know it's a callback. So I was building a modular board for Trench Crusade, and I will post pictures. I'll post pictures on the Discord. But I was cutting kind of fast. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this done, and I was like, ooh, I'm getting a little close to my finger there. I might as well turn my knife around. 5 seconds later, still slit, boom, blood, and it dripped like 10 drops on my terrain. So I was like, well,
consecrate.
I don't have to purposely do it. It just acts. Blood on my trenches already. Boom. So I got
perfect
4 stitches on my finger. So if you guys are wondering why it looks a little gross and goofy, that'd be why.
Nice.
I'll post pictures of that on the Discord too. If you want to see my stitched up finger, boom, there you are.
Worth every drop of blood, I'm sure.
It is.
If you don't have some hobby scars, you ain't living.
Yeah, that's true. If you're not in pain at some point while hobbying, you might be doing it wrong.
I was an electrician for many years, and my hands were pretty beat up. But my wife would always look at my hands and be like, "Where's that cut from?" It's like Warhammer. Where's that one? Warhammer. She's like, "Are any of these from electricianing?" I'm like, "No, I don't really work doing that. Like more of a."
It's also not recommended you stick your finger in sockets while you're doing electricianing either. That's
no. I'm
as
learning
long
that
as
from having
you're
a baby.
jumping in the air. If you jump in the air, you're fine because then you're not grounded, right?
Touching the ground. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is not legal advice.
Which, you know, the white scars, they like their lightning bolts and electricity and stuff because that's like the fastest fucking thing around. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm gonna relate to them a lot more than I would like, or first anticipate based on being a white dude with blonde hair and not a Mongolian. But
Yeah, we'll see. Here we
see.
go.
We'll fucking see.
But liar, you're right. I am now a white scar because I've got the scar on my finger. And the looper call, you're correct. I will put it in the tithe channel, make you guys pay to see my wounds. Here we go. Jaghatai Khan, Origins and Great Crusade. It is not enough to take from an enemy their life. Rather, take from them also their pieces or their places of safety, their allies, their homes, and their loved ones. Crush all those in their care, lay their chattels to waste, and then drive them alone and naked into the darkness. Take everything they have and burn it for the mere pleasure of seeing the ash crackle between your fingers, and call it nothing more than a beginning. This is attributed to Jaghatai Khan, Primarch of the White Scars Legion. Already, it gives you such a, I mean, what you want to do if you're a White Scars player, right before turn 1, say this to your opponent. Just say it's not enough to take your life. I will also take your places of safety. Just look them in the eye and say this and see what happens.
While you're playing the game, they like burn down their house, you kidnap their family.
Already, this gives me Conan the Barbarian feels. If you guys know like what is best in life, when they talk about in Conan, he says, crush your enemies, see them driven before you, hear the lamentations of the women. Like this just gives you that vibe right off the bat. So Jaghatai Khan.
It's just like raw power, man. Like, we describe almost all the Primarchs as super powerful, or they can be, but like, this is like power that he'll show you, inflict upon you.
Oh, yeah. And it's almost calling you out, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
Jaghatai Khan, the Khan of the White Scars Legion, is one of the 20 Primarchs created by the Emperor of Mankind during the Great Crusade. Known for his speed, both on the battlefield and in strategic thinking, Jaghatai Khan is a master of hit-and-run tactics and lightning-fast assaults. He is fiercely independent with a deep respect for the traditions of his people, the nomadic, steppe tribes who influenced his leadership style. Jaghatai Khan's primary weapon is his lightning-fast jet bike, and his forces are famed for their mobility and the ability to strike with devastating precision. His bond with his legion is unique, built on mutual respect and the shared understanding of the brutal, unforgiving nature of war. Despite his fierce loyalty to the emperor, the Khan's relationship with the Imperium is complex, as he holds a deep mistrust for some of its authoritarian structures. Relentless, strategic, enigmatic. That's how we might call him out. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is kind of one of the most interesting parts about him we kind of touched on very slightly, and just his mistrust of some of the institutions at the time, and in a different way than the Horus Heresy. But we'll get to that part of the story when we get there. But right off the bat, even we don't quite know where this story goes. Where a lot of the other Primarchs were like, "Oh, Angron, I bet that guy falls to some type of angry god." Let's say,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Jaghatai Khan was crafted, an engineered marvel, forged in the depths of a lab on Terra, a product of the Emperor's meticulous design. His body, mind, and spirit were all shaped by the genetic mastery of the Master of Mankind, a warrior tailored for the stars. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. As a warp tide surged, a catastrophic event cast the infant Khan across the boundless void, flung through the shifting chaos of the Immaterium, beyond the Emperor's grasp. When the storm finally abated, he crash-landed on a harsh, untamed world, Chogoris. There, amid the windswept steppe and unforgiving mountains, the boy was found and raised by nomadic tribes. He would grow into a force of nature, his soul hardened by the land and its trials, forever shaped by a world far from the Emperor's command.
Cool. Yeah. So, he's got that same backstory as all the other Primarchs, but even Purge in the chat was wondering where the Khan's blood comes from. Like, what makes this guy Asian? Like, he was built in a lab just with these other guys that we know, like the Lionel Johnson, Fulgrim, Perturabo, all these dudes were white guys. All of a sudden, we get a little Asian blood in there. And then he lands on an Asian planet. We'll find out too here in a second, Chogoris. I was gonna talk a little bit more about this in his appearance, but like since the chat brought it up, what do you guys think of what's the deal? Was the Emperor's talked about he has a plan for all the Primarchs, each one, Magnus, he's gonna sit on the throne. Was there some type of racial plan there too, you think?
I don't think so. It's actually kind of hard to place a Khan. Sometimes some drawings of him, and this is all official artwork. He looks almost like Cossack-ish, which would make him more like Caucasian, like literally from the Caucasus. And then other interpretations of them kind of make him out to be with more Asiatic features, obviously Mongolian influenced. So honestly, I don't know what. Like, I think they're trying to be vague with him on purpose. And I don't like. He's obviously all the Primarchs are a blend of multiple cultures. Like, yes, there's a strong Mongolian theme, but there are other influences there, especially with that common theme of motorcycles as horseback. So that again like ties in that Cossack look as well.
Sure.
I read somewhere that all the Primarchs are supposed to be like copies of the Emperor and just a little different. So, the Emperor probably looks more Turkish is kind of what I've heard or him described as. So, yeah, it's hard to say because then the other one, obvious one is Vulcan. His skin is obviously black. I don't know if he's depicted necessarily as black because the salamanders are dark skinned, but they're not necessarily black. Even one of the prominent salamanders in the TV show, he's Asian, but has really black skin because I forget what the gene seed that it messes with, causes like the dark skin in salamanders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that it's like anyone who becomes a salamander, their skin darkens regardless of what their racial origin was. So yeah, I'm not sure.
All that to
I think
say,
it's one of
I
those
don't
things.
know.
I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think someone said it in the chat, like the Emperor is all races. Like maybe that's a joke, but like I kind of agree. Like he's the Emperor of mankind. Like, and if mankind is not just one flavor, then there you go. And I this is one of those lines where I'm just kind of like, I don't know, I don't care. I think it's fucking cool. Like, I think to look into it deeper, is trying to like then kind of like go back on what GW was thinking, like, and try and find reason for it in the nitpicky way. And I think it can be fun to do that, but I think at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's just cool to think that like there's different flavors of the Emperor all around, because he is a piece of him. So I don't know. I don't get,
Like
me
if you took
personally, I
that
just don't get hung up on it too much.
Yeah, if you took that like theory of like the emperor's a bunch of sensei who combined into one being, maybe all those characters were from one from every nation, one from every corner of the earth type idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ultimately you're right. It doesn't matter. I was thinking maybe there's warp shenanigans involved when he gets flung through. Like, sure, maybe, whatever. But it just is a rule of cool sometimes. And like
Absolutely. Rule
also,
of cool is it, I think.
yeah. Take it away, Kristen.
Sorry, I lost my place.
No, this is you, Mark. I think this is you.
Oh yeah, it is.
Oh, hot
Cool.
damn.
Got him.
Don't try to make
okay.
this a me thing.
Oh my god. Okay, boys. I'll flog myself later. Don't you worry. All right. To make up for it, I'll try speed reading this paragraph in honor of the Khan.
Oh God.
Chogoris is a bitter world of extremes, pulsing with life and danger in equal measure. Beneath its majestic mountains and verdant plains, it hides brutal legacy of tale of survival and conquest. By the time the Great Crusade thunders across the start, the planet was relic of its former glory, its human inhabitants scraping by with nothing more than black powdered weapons. A once powerful empire ruled from the city of Kwao, an aristocracy of iron discipline and deadly horsemen who had dominated the land through swift cavalry charges and the might of their warriors. The Palatine, their ruler, was the master of strategy and war, his armies invincible across the fertile lands of Chogoris. Yet to the west, in the empty quarter, the landscape shifted. This was no orderly world of city-states, but a vast, unforgiving steppe where nomadic tribes of horsemen roamed the arid plains. Their culture was one of survival and constant movement, migrating from summer pastures to deep, protected valleys from the Chumkarta Mountains. These tribes, fierce and untamed, were masters of the bow, their arrows swift and unerring. They fought among themselves, waging brutal wars for the dominance of sacred pasture lands, a struggle as old as the land itself. The Chogorian Empire, strong as it was, did not seek to conquer these steppes, for there was little to be gained from the barren land. But the nobles, ever restless and eager for sport, often ventured into the vast nothingness with hunting bands, where they would capture tribes and bring them back for entertainment or sell them as slaves. It was a cruel game, one where the very essence of life was twisted into a dangerous spectacle. The empty quarter remained a realm of danger and mystery, one that even the most disciplined Chogorians would not dare tame. The climate of Chogoris reflected the harshness of its people. Winters were bitter, with blizzards that could strip the flesh from bone, while summers brought blistering heat, parching the land and making every step a challenge. But the world's cruelty extended beyond the seasons. The people of Chogoris were hunted as much as they were hunters, with monstrous flying beasts that circled the skies, ready to swoop down and tear apart the unwary. Rivers, once a source of life, could turn into torrents of destruction, their flash floods swallowing villages whole. In this world of contradictions, a warrior was forged, a son of the steppe, untamed and relentless. Jaghatai Khan. I'm just going to call him Khan from now on to save us all a nightmare. I got a comment on YouTube the other day about Chinch and how somebody pronounced that. And I thought, fuck you, it's the changer of weight. So you think you know how to pronounce Chinch's name? That's the first step to damnation, my boy. But, don't engage and feed the trolls. So I just kept going back to my casual work. He was born to this world of savage beauty and would rise above the chaos of his birthright, his skills honed by the unforgiving terrain and the brutal rhythms of tribal warfare. From the wind-swept plains of Chogoris to the war-torn fields of the Great Crusade, he would carve a path of destiny with the fury of a storm and the speed of the winds, forever shaped by the world that raised him.
I gotta say, the beginning when you read that super fast, first I was very scared for you because the running joke for years has been that you just can't read, and I've been a lover of this joke ever since being a fan of the podcast. But that was a King's Speech moment for you. That was like when Colin Firth puts on the headphones and it's blaring with classical music, and he's like, "Read this," and he's like, "I can't." He's like, "What? You can't read because you can't hear yourself?" To be, not to be. That is the question. And he
are you relating me to a retarded person?
No,
is that what's happening?
No. You need to watch it. It's so good. But that was like, oh my God, Mark's gonna try and speed read this. Oh geez, and you did wonderfully.
Thank you, my friend.
Or
Thank
as
you.
they
Yeah.
say in the King's Speech, you were sublime.
Tip top. Yeah, you know, I've been practicing my reading one word at a time. You guys should hear me in Spanish now. That's where the real treat is.
But it was good. The other thing, honestly, and I know this world is brutal. It kind of sounds beautiful though. Like I don't know why I'm just getting this vibe of like it's very fantastic in the sense of like fantasy. It has a very Conan the Barbarian fantasy feel. Um, um, yeah, just kind of classic sword and sorcery vibe to me, and I really like that already.
I like kind of the two-tier system that kind of has happened with like the empty quarter and the other part, and you know they raid the empty quarter, the Trogarians, and yeah, that's a cool kind of concept too of just that untamed wilderness, still the no man's zone, or just a place where you
Hmm.
can do whatever you want. Yeah, very appealing.
Yeah.
The word you're looking for is freedom.
Yeah, just out there, just you and your horse, and
Yeah.
yeah, you and your horse have known each other a long time, and sometimes it get cold out there on the plains of the steeps, and you and Jerry,
Jerry the
your
horse.
Jerry, the horse, one night, you know, you guys know it's fine. Yeah, no, very cool planet. Really just
Oh,
speaks characters to me, I think.
yeah,
I like how
and
you're
most
mixing
planets,
cowboys with Mongols.
yeah,
Now that's
they're
a genre
they're
bending
the
that I
cowboys of their area.
it's true.
And with most planets that we have our Primarchs falling on, like I'm going to say humans, just humanity or mankind rather, is lower on the food chain than they would be on Terra. And that's such a key part too, like the survival. They talk about it here, like there's brutal, um, creatures that would swoop down from the skies and tear you apart. Like that's so necessary to breed heroes in this way to like, kind of bring them up where like, no, you ain't shit unless you can survive.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
they all have
I love it.
survival pressures that like
Yeah.
Yeah, you hear of like the rich kid, like if all the Primarchs grew up on Terra with Big Daddy Emperor taking care of them, taking them out to ice cream, would they have become the legendary heroes? You know, probably not. Wealth
they're
would have been
soft.
destroyed in
No.
the stick. Yeah, they're soft, weak. Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's the planet of Chogoris. So far we're off to a cool start.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get into the youthful age of Jaghatai Khan. Jaghatai Khan arrived like a ghost from the void, cast from the warp, wrenched from Terra by unseen hands. His gestation capsule tore through the skies of Chogoris, a world of endless green plains, jagged white peaks, and deep blue seas. See, it just sounds gorgeous to me. I love it. The Imperium would name it. Now, here we go. The Imperium doing dumb naming things. This beautiful, untamed land, jagged peaks, deep blue seas, and they call it Mundus Planus. Literally, Mundus Planus. Oh my gosh. But to its people, it was the land of war and wind. In the age of the Great Crusade, Chogoris stood on the cusp of forgotten glories, its people scraping back from the ruins of the Age of Strife. The planet's dominant empire, ruled by the iron grip of the Palatine, had carved a legacy of conquest. Their armies marched in unbreakable ranks, pike walls and gunpowder volleys, steel clad cavalry riding to war. The Palatine had never known defeat, his dominion stretching across the heart of the world. Yet beyond his reach lay the empty quarter, a savage expanse. The wind howled across the barren steppe. Here, nomadic horsemen roamed, hardened by the cruelty of open war. The Palatine dismissed them as nothing, a land of raiders and dust, a place to hunt men like beasts. It was there that Jaghatai was found, lifted from the earth by Ong Khan, of the Talaskars. The chieftain saw the fire in the child's eyes, an omen of war and fate. The tribes despised him. He was no more than a warlord, more than a the tribes despised him. He was more than a warlord, more than a killer. He was the storm on the horizon, the fire that would burn the old ways to ash. Also, it just, man, it's so good. I'm so intrigued. I'm also getting a very Game of Thrones Dothraki vibe.
Yeah.
Kind of the
Yeah.
horsemen, like the classic, like
It's all coming from the same sort,
tribesmen.
like real life historical.
Yeah.
references.
I just keep getting images of all the calls, rather. Like I play a Song of Ice and Fire, the mini game, and like the artwork's so beautiful, but I keep getting like the Khal Drogo, the Khal whatever though, Khal Marco, Cristiano, all of them.
Definitely.
Fancy.
I want to get into that game.
Corto.
That's on my to-do list.
Dude,
Heard
it's so
good
good.
things.
So good. Anyway, yeah.
I like this little bit how, unlike the other Primarchs so far, he didn't have to get raised alone. And, he was adopted pretty much right away. Where, you got the lion who's fighting beasts in the wilderness till he's an adult and gets discovered. A couple of them are working in like mining facilities and like shitty like places like that. But yeah, like right away he gets what seems to be like a pretty decent mentor who teaches him a lot about like, just how things are and how things should go.
Yeah. It's like he's also picked up by the kind of outsider tribe, right? Like you have the Palatines. Is it Palanites or Palatines?
Palatine.
Yeah.
Pelotons.
No, the bikes need to move for the White Scars to ride them.
What the fuck is this? Don't move.
Yeah.
All right, fam, we're here to work out. Let's do it. You got out for a reason.
White Scar workout regimen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Like they're the Palatine. Dang it, I can't. Palatines are like the dominant force, but like Khan is on the outside. He's with the nomadic tribes. He's not part of the dominant civilization on the planet. At least not yet.
Yeah.
As we know, all Primarchs become that. Except for Angron. But let's get into it. Jaghatai Khan's path was forged in blood. His adopted father fell to the blades of the Kuryed, slain without mercy. A child in years, but a warrior in soul, Jaghatai took up the sword and rallied the Talaskars. They rode like the wind, striking the Kuryed in a single merciless assault. Their yurts burned, their warriors fell screaming, their women and children perished in the storm. Jaghatai took the enemy chieftain's head and mounted it on his tent. Honor was repaid in kind, but vengeance was not enough. The warlord-to-be saw beyond blood feuds and empty slaughter. The tribes must unite or they would all be nothing. Kind of hearkening back to that Conan the Barbarian thing you're talking about. I'm a big Conan fan, by the way. Big part of his story is he starts going to war as like a teenager, but he's already the size of a man. He's like, a boy, but he like you see him on the battlefield and he's like the same, if not bigger than your average enemy. So definitely still strong with that Conan vibe.
Yeah. And even Conan's parents, they were killed too, weren't they? And there's a vengeance story, or is that?
That's more from the movie. I'm actually like a bigger fan. Like obviously it all comes from Robert E. Howard's books. And then there's like all the comic books, and then they made the movies. Most people know Conan from the movies, but I'm a bigger fan of the books and the comic books than the movies, actually. So it's different versions have his father dying or his mother dying. That's most.
It was Robert E. Howard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir. I'm gonna start a Conan podcast.
God damn, I believe you.
Yeah.
Someone stop him.
The other thing quickly to mention is that I mentioned the Kuryed. and they're just another tribe. So similar kind of, you have the tribes fighting each other, and then also again that Palanite society. Man, I can never do it. All right. He fought ceaselessly, breaking raiders, humbling rival clans, and cutting down the noble hunting parties sent by the Palatine. With every victory, his confederacy grew. Tribes were shattered and remade. Old grudges erased beneath his rule. Military service became law. Rank was earned in battle, not birthright. His warriors followed him with unshakable loyalty, and none could match his speed, his cunning, and his will. That's cool too. Another thing about the rise of Genghis Khan in real life was he did kind of a similar thing where he would unite the tribes. The Mongolian tribes would all fight each other and they always held each other back. But once he started uniting them, they became this like unstoppable force. And a cool innovation that Genghis Khan did was, to a lot of other cultures of the time would elevate people based on birthright. Like, you're a noble, you're of noble blood, you should inherit this, that, and the other. You should inherit command of your troops. But Genghis Khan did institute a system of, what do you call it? Like an earned system?
Merit.
Yeah, meritocracy. So his commanders, his leaders, his chief warriors earned their places through success. So he would build a more efficient army over time as like his generals were proven in battle. So instead of just being some noble who just inherits all his stuff that might not actually be good at your job, he was there elevating people who actually showed their worth on the battlefield. So
At 854 liar in the chat, so long ago, he called Khan Imperial DEI hire, but you're telling me that that's wrong and liar's a dumb bitch.
Yeah,
this is a merit-based society.
It is 100%. Yeah. 10 years after his arrival, the steppe was his, but fate was not done testing him. As winter came, an avalanche swallowed his warband. His warriors died in the crushing ice. Alone he rose from the snow, only to fall into the hands of the Palatine's hunting nobles. They never made it home. What returned was a single broken rider, carrying the severed head of the Palatine's son and a message: the steppes are not your hunting ground. The Palatine's fury knew no bounds. He raised an army vast beyond reckoning, armored warriors and gunpowder legions marching west to end the steppe threat forever. But steel and shot could not catch the wind. Jaghatai's riders struck like ghosts, danced beyond reach, and dragged the great empire into the killing fields. The war had begun, and the Palatine had already lost.
Yeah, very cool. We'll just keep reading on. The Palatine warriors stood firm, their shields locked, their arquebuses sparking fire. But the arrows never stopped, a relentless storm whittling them down, breaking their resolve. When the charge came in, it was swift and absolute. The Palatine fled, his honor shattered, his army left to die in the dust. Khan gave no quarter. The empire's finest were cut down to the last man. From the ruin of battle, the stepped elders gathered. Khan was now the Kangan, the Khan of Khans, lord of the empty quarter. But the steppe was not enough. The world belonged to him, with his sworn brothers Yeskui, Kinza, and Hasek. Who, yeah, I butchered all those Asian-sounding names. I love it. Just when I got cocky with my reading. He rode to war, and the planet trembled beneath his hooves. The cities of the Palatines faced a choice: submit or vanish. Some bent the knee, others defied him. They ceased to exist, walls fell, thrones crumbled. The Kanagan's advance was merciless. At last, he stood before the capital, demanding its ruler's head on a spike. Fear ruled before he did. The city turned on its masters, delivering the severed head to the Khan's feet. He mounted it upon his tent, the last trophy in his long, unbroken march to conquest. In 20 years, he had built the greatest empire Chogoris had ever seen. But the victory brought new burdens. His people had no interest in ruling cities, only the open steppe. They vanished into the horizon, returning to their old ways, leaving Khan to rule from afar. He kept the peace with a threat of annihilation. His word was law, his wrath absolute. Yet his reign was fleeting. The world might have bent to his will, but his fate lay elsewhere. From the void came the Emperor, and with him, a new war. The Khan was never meant to stand still. The stars awaited. Very just, he comes in and like he takes this whole planet over. And the way he does it too, I love the line, he rules, fear advances before him or whatever, where, cities are just surrendering to him just due to reputation alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually same drawn from Genghis Khan, where once the Mongols started invading, and they'd be very merciful to cities who surrendered willingly, but they would be absolutely brutal to cities that resisted. And once the word got out of what happened to your city, if you resisted, cities would just like give up the minute like Genghis Khan would show up. Again, like riding on that reputation ahead of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the imagery of each of the Primarchs just doing something so powerful in their home worlds that they landed upon. So like the idea, like when the Emperor, which we're gonna get into in a moment, like comes and swoops up each of them, and like I just want to see them like stand in a room and kind of like greet each other, like brother, cool. Oh, hey, so what'd you do on your planet? Well, a bunch of tribesmen, like I came in, unified them, built the greatest empire we've ever seen, and took over pretty much, drove out all the filth, and survived. Cool. What about you? Oh, well, my planet didn't really have much. Like we were just dying and all that stuff, and it was just kind of a workforce. So, I decided to like become a leader and build up the workforce and make this planet really prosperous. Oh, okay,
Good
cool.
for you.
Just like everybody's like, oh, I kind of did
Yeah.
that too, but in this scenario,
And that's when
everybody
the
has their
door
fun thing.
slams and
Yeah,
everyone like counts who left, and it was Angron. Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, because all of them have these badass stories where they go in and they change the planet. Like, even the most kind of fucked up ones, like the Night Lords and Kurrs and their planet. Okay, they change it in a fucked up way, but at least
Yeah.
there's no crime there anymore.
Yeah, we stopped crime. You mean you stopped it? Yeah, they're fucking terrified of us. Angron, what'd you
Yeah.
do? Hey, Angron? Where'd he
Door
go?
slams again. Yeah. Poor guy.
All right, well, let's get into the coming of the Emperor here. Warriors of Chogoris, brothers of the great tribe, the star hunt calls you. Do you not hear it? The battle's red edge is your home, the respect of your kinsmen, your hearth. Plunge into the enemy's breast like a blade, cut out his heart, and you will know fulfillment. The Emperor has given us strength. In return, we give him victory. This is a quote by Jaghatai Khan, the last charge of Galathamar. So 6 months before the Emperor showed up, Jaghatai's war was already won. Chogoris lay beneath his banner, its cities cowered, its tribes bound in iron unity. He had forged an empire in blood and fire. Blood and fire, Targaryens, Dothraki. There
Back
we
to it.
go.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, full circle, double nerding, baby. A feat to match any of his lost brothers, but conquest is never ending. And only the edge of something greater. It was not the scouts of the White Scars who found Chogoris, but the Luna Wolves, with Horus at the head and the Emperor at their back. They came not as conquerors, but as something far worse. Hipsters. Just kidding. No, I when I read that, I was like, well,
God damn.
what the fuck's
What a
worse
word.
than conquerors? I could just see Horus coming down like, I'm pretty sure they've never heard of this planet. Pretty cool.
You
They
guys
came
even
as
know the
conquerors.
Imperium?
You guys even know the Emperor? They came as conquerors. They came not as conquerors, no, but as something far worse. The future, inevitable and inescapable. The great Khan who crushed kings and toppled empires stood before this emperor and was offered a choice. History paints him awed, bending the knee without hesitation, but Jagatai's own words tell a different story. He had given the same ultimatum to 1,000 warlords before: submit or be erased. He knew its weight, its truth. The Imperium's promise was unity, its cost was servitude. The Khagan had fought too long against division to turn away from order, yet too fiercely to kneel without demand. So he bargained. He secured the rights of his people, the shape of his command, the terms of his loyalty. And then Jaghatai Khan, who had ruled a world, became a warlord once more. The steppe was behind him. The stars lay ahead. So I think this gives a really cool rounded out personality to Jaghatai Khan, where it's not just go kill, go fast, go kill, take over. He is a tactician. We said it in the beginning of the episode. He has a very good strategic mind. And here, I think he knew that he needed to be smart when he played this. So he bargained, he parlayed, he persuaded. I like that. It doesn't paint him as just this like dumb warlord of like, let's kill and do shit. He's a smart dude.
Yeah, and like he even just knew like that. Like if I say no in this deal, I know what's gonna happen. Like, yeah,
I've done it a million times already.
Yeah.
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 I like kind of the insight that he kind of gets into the universe because of a couple of these events. Like for one, like he's born on a or not born, but shows up on a planet and his adopted father dies pretty much right away. And then he's just kind of born into war, and he gets like the harsh reality of the 40K universe anyways, which is, it's just one war to the next war. And then he wages war on his planet. Now he has to go wage war on other ones. And yeah, it's just like he knows this truth already. Yeah, if you're not fighting for yourself, now you're fighting for this warlord, for his territory, for his kingdom, whatever.
And he cares for his people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that it's also an insight into his character in that yeah, exactly. Like there's an element of he doesn't kneel necessarily. He's not submissive either, right? Like he also, okay, we're gonna bargain this, we're gonna negotiate this. This isn't just a you show up and I bend the knee situation. Like, what's in it for me? Even though he knows what the consequences are of not taking the deal, he still again negotiates that out.
Yeah.
That advantage, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Jaghatai Khan welcomed war. Governance had been a cage, its chains of duty binding him to the tedium of rule. Now, at last, he was free to ride, to fight, to carve new paths through the void. The Great Crusade called, and he answered. He knew conquest, had mastered it on the steppes and in the ruins of fallen empires, but the Imperium's war was different. The weapons, the machines, the sheer scale of destruction. It was an empire that waged war like a storm, relentless and all-consuming. There was no time for tutelage, no patience for ceremony. The front demanded warriors, not scholars. Jaghatai was given command, not lessons. The galaxy burned as the Imperium clashed with Xenos tyrants and the broken remnants of lost human kingdoms. The Emperor had no doubts. The Khan proved himself. What was one world against 1,000? What were yurts and cavalry against the thunder of legions? He would learn in war, or he would fall in its fire. Only two objected, Gulliman and Dorn. They saw the flaw, the danger in a brother unleashed without understanding. They warned that without roots in the Imperium's culture, the Khan might always remain apart, a wild blade within a rigid machine. Their concerns were ignored. The 5th Legion, once a fractured, wayward force, was his to command. To some, he was Jaghatai. To most, he was simply the Khan. But to his own, he was the Khagan, the Khan of Khans, and he would carve his name into the stars.
Cool.
How late was Jaghatai found in the Order of Primarchs? Like
I
obviously
don't know if that's I'm googling it right now, but
yeah, like obviously it's after Guilliman and Dorn, obviously Horus, who's the first. Like, is he later or is he towards the beginning or middle? To me, it seems like he would have been found later. Certainly not the last. We know the Alpha Legion was found last.
Just trying to find something.
Man, I don't know. Looking.
Anyways, yeah, it's just interesting that he was just thrown into the meat grinder, essentially. Like, here's your Legion, get to work. No time to learn.
He was the 15th found by the looks of it. So, like,
So relatively late.
Later on. Yeah.
Yeah, which explains again kind of the setup for him being thrown into the front kind of thing.
Yeah, like they're already so far into it. They're like, we kind of have this. We got the machine of war already raging hard right now. Like, you just got to get in and get after it. Yeah. Cool. So during the Great Crusade, Jaghatai Khan led the White Scars Legion with unmatched speed and tactical brilliance. His forces were known for their mastery of rapid assaults and hit-and-run tactics, using the vast open terrain of the galaxy's frontier worlds to their advantage. The Khan's nomadic heritage shaped his approach to warfare, emphasizing mobility, freedom, and adaptability over rigid command structures. The Khan was a fierce champion of the Emperor's vision, uniting countless worlds under the banner of the Imperium. However, his methods often set him apart from other Primarchs, as he preferred decentralized warfare and had a tendency to challenge the more traditional Imperial command methods. His close bond with the Legion was built on the shared values of strength, honor, and the warrior's code, making the White Scars one of the most fiercely loyal and effective forces in the Emperor's army. I love that kind of like, we briefly mentioned it, like that acceptance of the Emperor, and like, what does that mean? Like, he's like, well, okay, order. I'm essentially trying to do that too. I can get on board with the Emperor's vision, and then he kind of just throws himself to it. Like, yeah, I'm in it now at this point. Like,
yeah,
go hard.
One of my questions on this, and we might cover it, is so he's late to the game to be found. So the Legion had already been created, which is kind of usually the case in the sense of like Primarch meet Legion, Legion meet Primarch. But Jaghatai Khan's got such a huge army already, huge in the comparison of his own planet Chogoris, not necessarily the Imperium, but like he already has the 5th Legion that he's now commanding. Do you think that a lot of his warriors and maybe his close like advisors within his war band and stuff would have joined in on the 5th Legion? Or is he just kind of like, all right, thanks guys, we're going to take your warlord leader and he's now going to lead the 5th Legion and we'll see you later? Or do you think there was an integration between Khan's forces on Chogoris and the 5th Legion itself?
Yeah, we will touch a little bit on that. But there's definitely very strong cultural ties still. And the example I'll kind of use is just with Storm Seers, where they're chosen from like the shamanic kind of, maybe not elders, but kind of ritualistic kind of folk. And they bring that over, but like it's the same kind of rituals that they kind of bring in. And so, there definitely, I think, is some of that. How far in? I'm not sure, to be honest. How long does that last? I'm not sure. Like, once the Khan kind of leaves, does that kind of fade slowly? Maybe, but
Yeah, I think Fuzz makes a good point, like leaving some of those more capable advisors and allies to keep the order on Chogoris makes sense. But also, like, if you want warriors, there they are too.
yeah,
Like
there they are.
I would hope that he'd be like, guys, if you want to join me on this, let's go do this thing. If you
Yeah.
want to like come with me. I don't know. It's interesting. So maybe we'll touch upon it, but theorize a little bit. Let that just simmer and sprinkle and steep a little bit.
Percolating.
Percolate, yeah, or palatine, as Christian loves. Let it palatine a little bit.
Ah,
So, Star Hunters to White Scars. The title Master of the Fifth Legion meant little to Jaghatai Khan, for the Legion was scattered, its warriors lost to 1,000 separate wars across the galaxy. His command was of vagabonds, and to others it might have been a burden. To Jaghatai, it was an opportunity, one suited to his nature, his heritage. The great Khan had conquered before, uniting nomadic tribes from the vast plains of Chogoris, where he would do so again. But this time, his army would be forged from space marines, born through the trials of transformation and bound by blood. The Khan's call was sent far and wide. It took years for his summons to reach every corner of the galaxy, but when it did, it stirred the scattered pioneer companies. Warriors of the Fifth Legion answered, though many would not arrive for nearly a decade. By the time the forces assembled, they were not a united legion. Instead, they were divided, each company an isolated, suspicious band, wary of the others. The assembly was an easy one. The assembly was an uneasy one. 1,000 different factions brought together by blood, not loyalty. Okay, so we're already getting the picture here of like the Fifth Legion wasn't like Jaghatai Khan, meet your Fifth Legion. Fifth Legion, meet. It was like Jaghatai Khan, you're going to be in charge of the Fifth Legion. They're kind of all over. Yeah, go get them. They've been fighting and not doing a great job. Like we're trying to get them all together. So maybe you can go do this. It kind of gives me and these things. It's some of it's cool where it's like, oh, that fits your backstory, and some of it's like, that's your fucking backstory. Like we get it. Like it's the same thing. You're gonna do it again. It's almost the M. Night Shyamalan thing, and I don't mean like this crazy twist, but like M. Night Shyamalan has a very good writing technique where someone's weakness or someone's unique quirk and whatnot really fit the fucking ending of the movie, where it's like, oh, he's only buff in his right arm, Lady in the Water. Oh, that's why he's this thing. Oh, swing away, Joaquin Phoenix. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm spending an hour and a half of this movie not knowing what swing away means. And at the end, it's like, oh, you mean swing away and hit the water to kill the alien or whatever? Like it just clicks way too easy.
Spoilers.
I'm sorry, but it clicks a little bit too easy for me. It's like, really? Yeah. I'm gonna go reunite all these guys again. Okay.
Yeah, just not all the subtlety of a hammer to the face.
Yeah.
Now just imagine though, you just found out that you had 50,000 children in the galaxy and you had to go collect all your sons. And you're like, well, the Emperor has nothing to complain about in that regard. I'm gonna fucking.
Or just imagine you're Jaghatai Khan and you've spent the last like 10, 20 years or whatever, like reuniting these tribes and like getting it. And then this dude comes to you who's the supreme being, like your dad, and is like, hey man, I've got an army for you. Are you ready to take the call? Are you ready to answer this? To go to real war? And you're like, fuck yeah, good. All right. Oh, I don't have to do this shit anymore. I don't have to do this shit anymore. Like, let's get a real fucking war going. And he's like, you got to go find them all though and reunite them. Like, gosh damn it. I just did this.
Can I use my army?
No, yeah, we're ready to go. We're ready to go. All right. Well, Jaghatai knew this was not enough. When the gathering took place on Chogoris, beneath the endless sky, the great Khan sought to bind these strangers with more than just genetic ties. The first ritual was the blooding, simple yet potent. Each warrior carved their mark into their flesh, a scar to symbolize their loyalty. It was not a shared history that bound them, but a shared pain. The scars would vary, but their meaning would remain clear. Loyalty to Jaghatai Khan and to each other. Mm-hmm,
oh, cool. White scars. I get it now.
See?
Wow.
There you go. The second part of the blooding was the taking of a name. new names, forged from the fires of their rebirth. The warriors shed their pasts, abandoning old identities to become part of Jaghatai's Ordo. I'm assuming that's the word for like the order. So the Ordo. They were white scars now. Christian, got it. Good man. And each name was a mark of their transformation. Some chose names from deeds, others from the traditions of Chogoris itself. It mattered not the specifics. The act of renaming bound them, solidifying their place within the Legion. Very cool, very cool. Beyond scars and names, Jaghatai gave his warriors more. He instilled within them the noble pursuits, the art of calligraphy, the hunt, the telling of stories. These practices, strange and sacred, were woven into the very fabric of the White Scars, blending superstition and speciality. Practicality. I just thought that was really cool to add in there, though. There we go. This was the truth, his vision, and it stood in stark contrast to the imperial truth that demanded a rejection of such things. This divergence would later spark conflict with his brothers, particularly Gilliman and Lorgar. But for Jaghatai, the bond of his warriors was unbreakable, bound by blood, scars, and the deep traditions of Chogoris. Yeah, so there's a big integration there as far as like the cultural traditions, the cultural standing, the standards of that way of life. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that's such a cool, like, okay, so he had to wait for a bit to get all his legion together, but when he finally did, like, not many other legions had this kind of like ceremonial kind of ritual bonding experience. It was usually just like lots of them didn't even rename their legion. They're just like, let's get after it. But yeah, this was kind of a very personal, very intimate moment for the legion. And yeah, I think it plays or it bleeds through why they stay so true for so long. We'll say it that way.
And he gives them a choice, and the choice is your name. You choose an identity in the Imperium. What? Like that has to be already a little bit of like, so what's going on with the White Scars? They're getting a little weird over there.
Sounds like
That's such a
religion.
cool thing. A little bit. But
The
it's
blood
very
angels
cool.
are doing blood rituals and like, yeah, they're getting a little weird with their rituals over there. Like, don't look over here.
Yeah. But it gives you identity within the masses, which I think is really cool. And I think the White Scars are kind of that way anyways. Like any White Scar player will probably tell you like, I'm one of very few people that play White Scars. I mean, not personally. I'm saying that like there are not many out there, and it feels very unique. It's cool. Yeah.
That's a call out. If any White Scar players are out there, you guys have to give yourself a Legion name now.
Yes.
Induct yourself.
Yeah. I'll give Brody one for sure on the next episode since he has a bunch of White Scars.
He has to choose
Christian and I already have our White Scar names here.
Yeah,
Mark, you've got yours. See, look at that.
Yes, and you're right. Yeah, no, I can't give him one. He has to give him himself.
Yeah.
Mine will then be
Come on, your name is so easy. Just add Khan on the back.
I know. There it is.
Dude, if you scroll through the Legion, like the list of and probably save this more for the Legion episode, but they all, man, it's almost overdone.
when GW leans into a theme, they lean hard.
Yeah.
Space
Wolves all
well,
over.
It's
Yeah, I know.
It's that body type, it's hard to get it propped back up once it's tilted.
All right. Let's get into the invasion of the Coleraine Circle.
Kalarn.
Jaghatai Khan's campaign began with a singular and yielding purpose. The White Scars, though bound by blood and ritual, were not yet a true legion. The Khan's strategy was ruthless in its clarity. Tradition alone would not unite his scattered warriors. His first trial for the legion was not one of ceremonial grandeur, but of grim, bloody struggle. The Coleraine Circle was chosen as his proving ground, a region steeped in chaos, home to renegade humans and wandering Xenos. It would be here that the White Scars would carve their mark. The battlefields of the K'Lorn Circle were unforgiving. No world was rich in resources nor strategically valuable, yet it was here that the White Scars would find their crucible. Each world was a battle in itself, a test not of strength alone, but of unity. The Khan never one to rely on singular efforts, dispersed his core warriors, the Keshig, among the disparate companies. These warriors, Qin Shah, Chorgutai Yasuge, and Hasik Noyan Khan, would not only lead their blade, but also be the example of the Khan himself. They were his champions, the living testament to his unrelenting will. The cost was steep. Of the 80,000 warriors who entered the fray, 1 in 10 would never return. But in the fires of war, the legion was forged. The orc hordes of Sengir Mar and the Borgheist were shattered under the relentless onslaught of lightning-fast raids, drawn from the savage traditions of the Chogorian plains. It was in this crucible that the White Scars proved their mettle, never retreating, never faltering. These were warriors who fought not just for victory, but for the brutal, intoxicating joy of war itself. In the heart of the struggle, Jaghatai Khan was everywhere. His presence was a beacon, and soon the White Scars followed him, not just out of duty, but out of a burning desire to prove themselves worthy of his side. The tales of his valor spread like wildfire, and warriors competed to stand by him in battle. His example became the Legion's banner, and the bond between him and his warriors grew stronger than any oath. The Khan was their warlord, their god of war, and their loyalty to him was unquestioned. With the K'Lorn Circle finally subdued, the Khan stood triumphant. The war-torn worlds fell under his control, their ruins and their blood used to rebuild the Legion. No longer a shadow on the fringes of the Great Crusade, the White Scars emerged from the fires of the K'Lorn Circle as a force to be reckoned with. They were a legion reborn, unified in purpose, blood, and savage fury. The Khan had led them from the shadows and into the light, and they would now fight at the Emperor's side, their place at the forefront of the crusade secured. If you can see us, we are dangerous indeed, but that is as nothing to the peril you face if you cannot see us, and all you can hear is our laughter. White Scars proverb.
Cool. I love how we're seeing a little bit more of like just how they interact with each other, the Primarch and his Legion. That little bit about where they're battling to stand beside their Primarch's side. Oftentimes in these legions we have like honor guards, not that the Primarchs need anyone to protect them, but you're still not getting close to them, but it's this competition, it's this rivalry that the blade sharpens blade even in their own legion, and all of them just kind of drive each other forward.
Yeah, that's really cool. The Keshig, all the Primarchs, like you said, they have some kind of dedicated bodyguard unit. And in the case of Jaghatai, it's the Keshig, who again,
Sure,
subtly, same as Mongolian tribes. But I digress.
The one thing I'm curious about, though, is, and maybe it's just because it was kind of a proving ground, but it kind of seems like I don't want to say a big waste, but like the K'Lorn Circle has nothing that the Imperium wants, seemingly. Like it's not rich in resources, it's not strategically valuable, and yet like they spent 5 years like fighting here. Like why?
I think it just is like with orcs, man. If you don't, you're in a world of trouble. You deal with it now, or you deal with it in 10 years. Maybe that's what kind of is the thought there.
Well,
I buy that for sure.
It is just an exercise too to bond the Legion. Like, it doesn't matter. It might not be like, first of all, yes, they're going to conquer every world no matter what. So they'll get to it eventually, regardless. Mm-hmm. But like finding a hard nut to crack, specifically to blood your Legion, to make them fight together, to make them become actual battle brothers, is just as important as the land that they're taking, right? Like,
okay,
yeah,
sure.
That was the whole point of the exercise, was to bond the Legion together in combat.
It was like 5 years though, right? Like I looked at some of the notes, and it was I kind of I understand that. I like a little bit more of your reasoning, Mark. Like if it's orcs and stuff, like hey, it's a growing threat. Like this place does nothing for us strategically except it could be to push them back a little bit because like ooh, getting a little close there or something. Yeah, I get that, but yeah, I don't know. I'm looking and it's like how many years here? I don't know. It just feels a little like 5 years they fought
It's a
over
long
this
time.
Kalarn circle. It is, and it is in the sense of the Great Crusade, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of is. So it being just a like a proving ground, like a exercise, I just don't know if I buy that. You know,
Like you still, again, they're gonna conquer every world regardless.
yeah,
Like it's not like they wasted time doing it. Like it had to be done eventually.
yeah,
So
yeah.
why not just, like I said, they probably just picked the hardest enemies just to bond the Legion. But also, again, they have to get to it eventually. So let's just do it now.
Yeah, good point. The job that takes the longest is the job that's never started. Tolkien. Boom.
There you go.
Mhm.
Love it. More proverbs.
Many
Mhm.
proverbs.
Yeah.
The Laughing Killers. The Khan's white scars were forged anew in the fires of war, not as wandering pioneers, but as a spearhead of the Great Crusade. Their transformation was swift and relentless. There was no room for hesitation in the wake of their rebirth. The galaxy had been tamed to the edges of by mankind's hand, but still it seethed with enemies that threatened the Imperium's fragile grip. The White Scars did not wait for permission to strike. They moved like lightning, unrelenting, exacting, as the very embodiment of ferocity. Even in just that little paragraph, we kind of learn about how, we're in the back end of the Great Crusade for sure at this point. Lots of the galaxy's been conquered. Like, what's left is like planets that, like you kind of said, have absolutely no use, so they haven't even bothered going there. Or these like tough planets to crack where it's like, this is a 5-year campaign. Maybe we don't do this at the beginning of the Great Crusade. Maybe we expand a little. But yeah, it's kind of cool to come into a galaxy where it's like already all kind of done for you. Their methods were savage, but not mindless. The Khan had no interest in slow, methodical wars. He chose chaos, swift, brutal, and decisive. The Corlane Circle, a wasteland of lawless worlds and alien horrors, his warriors thrived. Here, the Khan forged his legion into something more, not merely conquerors, but storms that had shattered the galaxy's enemies. The White Scars struck without warning, taking advantage of their speed and savagery in every skirmish. They were the wind that howled through the battlefield, the sharp edge of the blade that cut without hesitation. Yet beneath the surface of their relentless war, there was more. The White Scars were not mere raiders, they were artisans of warfare, scholars of the blade, and students of the hunt. They moved with precision that defined the chaos they reveled in. Their leaders, like Quinzan, man, yeah, those words, and Targuti Yeskui, were no mere warriors. They were extensions of the Khan's will, shaping their brothers with honor and tradition. There was no brutality for brutality's sake. Where they showed mercy, it was because the foe had earned it through their valor. They fought with purpose, not rage, though the rest of the galaxy failed to see this beneath their veil of their brutality. Still, they were outcasts. The White Scars, bound by their code of their homeland, were dismissed by many of their brothers as little more than savages. The sons of Doran and Gilliman looked upon them with disdain, unable to understand their methods, their unchained spirit. The Khan was content in his isolation. He was a creature of movement, always where the battle raged hardest, but forever apart from the rest. Few Primarchs sought his company, and fewer still understood him. Only Magnus, Horus, and Sanguinius seemed to see beyond the savage veneer, recognizing the sharp intellect and brutal honesty that drove the Khan. As the crusade neared its end, the White Scars found themselves increasingly irrelevant. Fuck me. So we can't say Palatine and we can't say this fucking word, eh?
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant, man.
And it was Palatine with no N after the A. Palatine. The Palantir.
The Palantir. Yeah, nice. Their war, wild and untamed, no longer had a place in the empire. The emperor was building. The galaxy was larger, subdued, its borders fixed, and enemies subdued. The Khan sensed the coming of a reckoning, a choice that would demand more than just loyalty. It would demand a betrayal. The White Scars had always been a wild storm that raced ahead of the Crusade, but now they faced the certainty of a future that no longer needed them. The galaxy was winning, and in that victory, they would either fall into obsolescence or become something unrecognizable, sacrificing the very essence that made them who they were. It's just such a different time in the galaxy right now. Like, I can imagine that the air in the galaxy is like light and cheerful almost. You know, you hear victories here and over there, and all the galaxies coming together, and humans finally did it. Like, you know, such a wonderful time on paper, but the Khan, he's kind of seeing the future like, okay, I just got summoned into this war that's basically over. Then what?
Yeah, and as we know from how other Astartes were starting to like tip into the heresy conversation, was exactly that question. What does the Imperium do with all its soldiers after the war is done? And more it was looking like they were just going to hand it over to regular humanity, and what will become of the Space Marines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always love that angle. I feel like they should have leaned more heavily into it. It was like really prominent early on in the books, and they seem to kind of drop it as an arc. But like that to me would be a question worth answering.
Yeah, like, will the Khan be able to even rule his own planet at the end of all of this, or will the administration come in and do something with it? Like other Primarchs had their planet just fucked with.
Right, exactly. Like, imagine you bled for a planet, your brothers died to take a planet, you carved this Imperium from like the Xenos and from like all the threats, you united these worlds, and yet it gets handed over to like bureaucrats to take care of. Like,
just handed right over to somebody like Christian, and you're like, fuck.
I'm gonna do terrible things to your world. I hear you do strange things to your planets, Christian. Anyone knows what that's a reference to?
No, what is it?
Conversation the Khan has with Fulgrim.
Oh, okay.
The thing I don't really understand, I know we're going to touch upon it later a little bit, but like, he's kind of seen as an outcast again. We get it, outcast, because it mirrors your homeworld. Within his brotherhood of other Primarchs, but like, I feel like Liam and Russ and this guy would just get along on paper. Like, it just kind of has that vibe of like tribesmen, cool, really good, like cultural ties with your origins, and now your legion. Yep, check, cool, all right, good. But I think we're gonna get into it a little bit later. I kind of did a spoiler for myself, but it's kind of sad that he's kind of on the outside too, because like, he's so useful. Like, has he not proven himself time after time? Time after time.
Yeah, like, I wonder if you know, if he would even like Russ, or if he'd look at Russ kind of like this, like how everyone looks at him. And he's like, I'm not like that. I'm an intellectual, actually. Thank you very much. I like I wonder if he would look at Russ, and just be like, I
Russ
never
is a
want to
savage.
kind of like,
Yeah.
That's not how I want to come off.
Yeah.
But I never met the guy, so I don't know.
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell.
So now we get into the emancipation of Droon. Is that where we're at?
I think it's pronounced Dune.
The R is silent.
Yeah.
Triple nerding?
Yeah. Oh.
It can.
The emancipation of Droon. Drune. D-R-U-N-E.
Now I'm just hearing the theme for Dune in the back. All right, go on.
By the 880s, not the late 80s, the 880s. Just saying. M30.
Different time.
Different time. Still big hair, though, you know. The White Scars, not an 80s metal band, mind you, had earned their place among the most feared and relentless of the legions Astartes. Jaghatai Khan's forces had proven themselves a force to be reckoned with, particularly in campaigns that, like those at Tarl III and Arco, not the gas station, mind you. But the
Every line.
it's just White Scars marching up to Arco AM PM, like, give us this fucking gas. Like, okay. All right, it's yours. Got him.
I'm also collecting points.
Yeah. Type in your phone number, you get a discount. But the war at Droon would reveal more about their ruthless efficiency and their ability to endure the unrelenting weight of the unknown. It began with a simple mission: imperial compliance. We've heard it time and time again. Imperial compliance. What they found instead was a reality more terrifying than they could have imagined. 3 entire legions, the Luna Wolves, Death Guard, and White Scars, had come together to confront the stubborn resistance of Droon's capital. The gates before them remained shut, silent, despite the immense show of force. Horus, ever the epitome of boldness, was ready to strike. But the warning came from an unlikely source. Kulek Sen, a storm seer of the White Scars, just a little pausey there. Storm seer would be the equivalent of like a librarian, I think, like a psyker. Yeah,
Pseudo librarians. Yeah, it's the same thing with the, ironically enough, with the Space Wolves with their, what do you call theirs? They use the power of the weird and
Rune priests.
Rune priests, yeah. Somehow get around librarianing by being not librarians that are librarians.
I think that's kind of cool though. Like, I like it. Yeah. So Kulek Sen, the storm seer of the White Scars, he had said, "The shadow hangs over this place." It was a cautionary whisper, a sense of looming domination that the other Primarchs dismissed. But Khan would not. The storm was not just in the skies, but in the very air around them and in the depths of their hearts. I had to add that little piece. It just sounded right. The storm is raging in my heart. Their entry into the city was not met with battle, but with an eerie silence. So again, let's backtrack just a little bit. So remember, Imperial compliance, generally, you go to a planet, you say, hey, we're the Imperium. You guys need to join us or perish. Just kind of like again, we're getting back to the choice that the Emperor gave Jaghatai Khan, which is the same choice that Jaghatai Khan gave to other tribes and whatnot on his planet Chogoris. So you go to the planet, hey, let's not fight, just join us and worship the Emperor, or not worship the Emperor. That's right, because he doesn't want to be worshipped, but do the thing that he says and all will be well. And sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. So anyways, their entry into the city was not met with battle, but with an eerie silence. The populace, vacantly staring with hollow eyes, moved like puppets with no strings. The stench of neglect and decay clung to them. It was then that the full weight of the danger became undeniable. The city itself was ensnared by the warp, and not just the land, but the very people. Unseen forces, alien in origin, manipulated the minds of the population through portals scattered across the mesas, linking their will to an otherworldly nexus. Only by closing these portals could they hope to free Droon. With Jaghatai Khan chosen to lead the charge, the campaign began. The White Scars, with their unmatched speed and ferocity, took to the wastelands of Droon. Xenos horrors, bloated and thrashing, emerged from the warp itself, directing waves of mind slaves to face the legionaries. It was the storm seers, again, librarians, who held the key. Their psychic abilities deadened the warp's influence, allowing the White Scars to engage the beasts and strike them down. The war raged for 6 months. Each step forward, a test of will, each battle, a struggle against the ever encroaching warp. The final confrontation took place within the heart of the city. As the Primarchs advanced, the air grew thick with psychic pressure, a violent warping of reality itself. At the center stood the behemoth, an ancient, an alien entity that pulsed with raw power. Its psychic strength was overwhelming, and even the mighty Horus and Mortarion struggled against its will. But it was Jaghatai Khan who saw the final blow struck. With the help of his storm seers, he found the weak point within the creature's bloated form and thrust his blade into its core. The explosion of etheric energy nearly consumed him, but it was Horus who pulled him from the collapsing vortex, saving his brother from certain death. Droon was liberated, but its people were not. As the alien mind control shattered, the millions of once puppets fell lifeless, their bodies collapsing to the ground. The victory was bitter, a reminder of the true cost of the Great Crusade. The Imperium had been spared from the Xenos threat, but the price was high, and the White Scars returned to their ships. They left behind a world that would never again know what it was to be free. The shadow had been severed, but at what cost? The galaxy would continue to turn, and Jaghatai Khan would remain an enigma, relentless, swift, and unfathomable. Man, what a rad and sad image there. You go to this place, you're like, okay, we're going to get these guys under imperial compliance. Let's do this. And you're like, what the fuck's wrong with them? Why aren't they doing anything? Why won't they reply? They're just staring at us. And then you realize, because they're under fucking mind control of this warp Xenos entity that then starts attacking you. And the people that you fought to, I'm going to really heavy air quotes, free. The people that you fought to free, right? Okay, free with compliance.
Yeah.
Are now casualties of war. Couldn't do shit.
Yeah, they just collapse around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the galaxy is a brutal place, you know. The first creature they come out and fight, these orcs, it's like, yeah, you can get Xenos orcs, you know, they're these like savage creatures, but then the next thing they come up against is with like this unimaginable alien horror from another dimension that you're fighting. It's, you know, even at this point in the Great Crusade, not much is known about the warp. And you got Horus who's almost getting like killed by this thing, and like this shouldn't be happening in the Great Crusade at this point in time. Like, this is a crazy battle all of a sudden.
Yeah. It reminds me of something. And chat, please, if you guys can chime in on this, it reminds me of a movie or a show, and I'm forgetting exactly which one it is, but protagonists and whoever go to like this fortress or something, and they see what looks to be like, oh fuck, I think it's Waterworld. I don't know why I'm thinking it's Waterworld, but like, they see a bunch of people that are like waving and stuff, and they're like, oh, okay, I guess there's workers and stuff, but it turns out they're just like dead bodies puppeteered by this string thing to like welcome you and try and lure you in. I think it's Waterworld. That reminds me a little bit of this Droon scene of like, what's going on there? Why are they just doing nothing? And it's just this lifeless body kind of thing. Anyways.
Is there any description of this warp beast thing?
I was getting very Nurgle vibes from it.
Okay. Do you know what the source material, like, is it from a novel or a codex? Or
yeah, I'm assuming it's a novel.
Okay, because I know we were joking about the Dune thing earlier, but now, very strong Dune vibes.
Yeah.
Probably not an accident. Leto II, Emperor Leto II, becomes like a worm beast and has like really powerful psychic powers. And I was like in my mind just like thinking like the Shai Hulud when they're describing like the creatures, right? Giant sandworms. Is what was yeah. I'm thinking. Anyways. And there's obviously 40K has lots of Dune references. Like, 40K is a byproduct of Dune, just like Star Wars. But I digress. All right, let's get into the Pale Emperor. Few know the true story of the Pale Emperor, and fewer still dare to speak of it. It is not the kind of tale spun by remembrancers or captured in pics, but one whispered among the White Scars when outsiders questioned the ferocity of the Great Khan. Though the details blur with time, the core truth remains. The Khan led a campaign to the farthest reaches of the Mandragoran sector, far from the watchful gaze of the Imperium, where he encountered a people of ancient Terran descent. In the cold depths of unexplored space, the White Scars under the banner of the Jaghatai Khan found a world not forsaken by humanity. It was a place where humans, isolated for millennia, had thrived, their technology rivaling the Imperium's. Yet their greeting was not of kinship, but of hostility, their city standing defiant against the Imperium's might. No negotiations were offered. The White Scars fleet came under fire, not from Xenos, but from the very humans they had hoped to ally with. Jaghatai, ever a statesman, had hoped for peaceful compliance. But where others might have seen a diplomatic failure, the Khan saw opportunity. His warriors would test their mettle against a worthy foe. The opposing Voidcraft, though fierce, were overwhelmed in short order by the Imperial warships that descended like harbingers of doom. The Khan, unwilling to waste time on prolonged conflict, allowed the remnants of the enemy fleet to flee in honor for a worthy adversary. The Khan's forces descended upon their enemy world, unleashing their fury upon a force of warriors clad in heavy ancient armor. These foes, slow and ponderous, proved no match for the White Scar's speed. The jet bikes of the Khan's vanguard danced through the enemy lines, exploiting every weak point with brutal precision. The battle was swift, violent, and decisive, the roar of the Khan's warriors echoing across the field like a storm. Yet, even in victory, the Khan showed restraint, choosing 3 warriors as emissaries to speak to the Pale Emperor, offering him a chance at compliance. The Pale Emperor's response was blood. The Khan's emissaries were slaughtered, their bodies returned in pieces. In a fury that crackled with quiet, controlled rage, the Khan unleashed hell. The city was reduced to ash, its people put to the sword. The White Scars advanced across the world, leaving nothing but ruins in their wake. The final confrontation came at the Pale Emperor's palace. There, surrounded by the carnage, Jaghatai Khan stood before the fallen ruler. With bloodied blade, he offered the Emperor one final chance to understand the cost of pride. His life spared, but left to rot as a reminder to all who would challenge the will of the Imperium. The White Scars tell this story as a testament to their strength and honor. But among the oldest of the Brotherhoods, another version circulates. In this telling, the Khan speaks not only of pride, but of the wound left unhealed in his own soul. He leaves the Pale Emperor not to die in battle, but to remember why some enemies must be destroyed, and why sometimes even the greatest warriors are forced to soil their blades.
There's a third story where it's an album by Marilyn Manson. Just saying. The Pale Emperor.
Some say, some whisper that Jaghatai Khan wrote that album.
Some do say that, yeah.
Some say.
And we have the proof to back it up. We just don't want to share it with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool little story where this is taking us with the Pale Emperor. Just like all these end crusade bad guys, all these cool kingdoms that are left at the end of the crusade that they go in and just topple. But I like that, like, yeah, he has his emissary, sends them in, they get killed, and then he's like, okay, there's no quarter given now. Like, it takes us back to that first quote where he's like, I'm going to destroy everything now. Very cool.
Yeah, and again, this is directly lifted from another story of Genghis Khan, where he sent emissaries, they were killed, and then, like, he just, again, same kind of deal. Just annihilates the Empire.
If it works, it works.
Yeah. I mean, don't mess with a good thing, you know? Is this the same? I feel like in one of the first few Horus Heresy novels, they go to a planet that they're trying to do the classic Imperial compliance on, and there's like an emperor there. I'm sure there's many emperors, you know, in quotes, but I don't think this is the same one where they're like, this is the whatever ever emperor.
It could
you guys know
be,
what I'm
but
talking
I
about?
really, yeah, no, I know exactly where they teleport in, and it's like, I was there that Horus slew the Emperor, and you're like, holy fuck, we're getting into this book right off the top, and then you find out it's just a little teaser of a mini Emperor.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
so. I think that, yeah, okay. I'm sure
I don't
everybody's
think
like,
it
well,
was the
I'm the
pale guy.
emperor, yeah, of my planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a common title.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. The next little bit we'll talk about is his relationship with the other legions. The Khan's relationships with his brothers were forged in the crucible of war, tempered by the relentless pursuit of the understanding and shared ideals. With Horus, the bond ran deep. The two Primarchs united in the mastery of rapid assault and battlefield command. Horus, the revered leader of the Luna Wolves, and the Khan found common ground in the strategic brilliance, and perhaps more so in the unsaid understanding between them, the kind only shared by warriors of a like mind, a bond forged in the fires of mutual respect and combat. Their camaraderie was a silent testament to their unshakable resolve. In Magnus the Red, the Khan found a similar brotherhood, a quiet connection based on their shared position as outsiders among their peers. Both were intellectuals at heart, seeking not only the art of war, but the subtleties of the universe, their legions distinct and in many ways misunderstood. The White Scars, the Khan's legion, were often seconded to fight alongside the Luna Wolves, their brotherhoods interwoven in the dance of war. The legion's tactics were fluid, a striking mix of Luna Wolves' consolidation of power and the White Scars' innate swiftness. But it was a blend not all could comprehend. The Chogarians, with their unyielding spirit and fluidity, often found the rigid military hierarchy of their counterparts stifling, though it proved effective. When paired with the Thousand Sons, there was an unspoken respect, a shared sense of isolation from the rest of the Imperium. The two legions, though worlds apart from their methods, found an uncommon kinship in their detachment. Knowledge and understanding were their true pursuits, not the bloodshed their brothers often reveled in. In contrast, the White Scar's relationship with some of the other legions were filled with scorn and suspicion. With Mortarian's Death Guard, there was no common ground, the Primarch's stark differences in personality and approach to warfare fueling the animosity between them. And with the Space Wolves, the disdain ran just as deep. The Luna Wolves, for all their faults, had never been lumped in with savages, but the White Scars were forever seen through the lens of their tribal markings and battle scars. This comparison to Layman Ross' feral warriors stung, an insult that the Khan and his legion could never quite shake off. They were not executioners nor berserkers. They were warriors of precision, speed, and purpose, forces misunderstood by many, and yet proud in their isolation. The White Scars were never those who demanded respect, nor did they seek understanding from outsiders. To them, the pity of the others was irrelevant. Their speed, their ferocity of their attacks, and their sheer resolve, these were the things that mattered. If others failed to see it, it was their loss. The Khan, ever the stoic leader, never wavered in his vision. The White Scars moved faster, fought faster, and struck with brutality none could match. But there was a bitterness in that pride, a slow burning resentment of the world that had refused to accept them for who they were, and yet they refused to change. They would not be molded into something they were not. In their eyes, it was the Imperium that was fractured, not them. Rivalries between the ancient chapters were inevitable. The White Scars and the Raven Guard, two legions born of similar ideals, had long harbored an unspoken mistrust. Though their causes were often unclear, the battle they fought together were enough to fuel decades of there's that word again, aminosity. The assault of
We'll go with
the high, yeah. The assault on
Animosity.
Hive.
Animosity.
Animosity. The Animaniacs. The Hive assault Lin Mai and the last march of the Sapphire Worlds, each conflict left its mark, deepening the rift between the two. But the most acrimonious of all was Operation Kronos, where the Raven Guard chaplain fell to the enslavers, and the nearby White Scars force could have intervened, yet did not. The wound was deep and the distrust had festered for centuries. Even as millennia passed, the hatred between the two legions remained, unyielding, a shadow that would never fade. The White Scars, relentless in the pursuit of their vision, remained ever swift, enigmatic, and merciless. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. They definitely value their planet first and foremost, and like where they came from, who they were. Like that's what they're all about. That's what they care about for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think
It's always interesting.
Go for it, Christian. Yeah, go for it.
It's always interesting when you see rivalries. Usually it's like pretty black and white, like, oh, the Imperial Fists and the Iron Warriors. Like, obviously they're going to end up on the opposite sides of the conflict. They already had a rivalry brewing, right? But it's always interesting when you see two factions on the same side having like tension or rivalry. So that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, conflict is good. Conflict breeds fun characters. It's funny too because I wasn't sure if we mentioned it when we started recording or if it was just before when Mark, you and I were chatting, but like I compared White Scars to Raven Guard as well. Like they're both a kind of niche army that gets very little love from GW in the sense of like models and stuff, but like just enough to exist. And like, yeah, like Logan's a Raven Guard player, but he's like the only one I know. He's the only guy I've ever known to play Raven Guard. And I think I've seen one dude play White Scars like years and years ago. They're just these kind of like niche. Yeah, he was legend in history and whatnot.
Move too quick.
It's funny that like you put the two kind of niche, like not big enough armies against each other in the rivalry like area in the Imperium. I don't know. Just kind of
they're both
two smaller guys.
Yeah, they're both the bastard stepchildren of GW, and they're fighting for daddy's attention.
Yeah.
No, God.
Please make models for us.
And they should. They should.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into Ulanor. A storm on the horizon, an unpredictable force of nature that strikes without warning. This is the White Scars Legion, a sudden eruption of speed and violence, a relentless force that tore through the fabric of battle with ferocious precision. These warriors, like Jaghatai Khan, moved with an intuitive understanding of war's ebb and flow, each strike driven by an unspoken rhythm, a pulse that only they can feel. I'm getting a little bit of an Emperor's Children vibe, a little bit of Slaneshi thing going. I know it's not true, but just a little bit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Anytime anything's pulsing, I get worried.
Rhythm and pulse, and you're like, Slanesh is near.
Yeah.
Like Sting, when orcs are around.
Yeah, that's
right. You start pulsating, Slanesh is close.
Oh my
gosh. Which part of me is glowing like Sting?
Pulsating, I said.
Sorry, pulsate.
Maybe glowing too. I don't know.
Hard to say.
Beneath the frenzy of their charges lay a silence, a wisdom that few ever glimpsed, a knowledge not of strategy, but of something far deeper. Their presence was like a bolt of lightning. Little bit of a hint there. In clear skies, a little foreshadowing. Sharp, unexpected, and deadly. In the heat of battle, the White Scars became one with the chaos, flowing through it like a river cutting through rock. And again, not actually chaos as we know it, just like the anarchy of war. They struck where their enemies were weakest, where their blades would be least expected and always left only cold corpses in their wake. Their swiftness was their weapon, and in the moments before the clash, they were like shadows, unseen until it was too late. Their strikes were not mere combat, they were the art of sudden, ruthless annihilation. The White Scars thrived where others faltered, relentless in their pursuit of victory, carrying with them the unyielding winds of destruction. Whew, man, guys, get out and play some White Scars, man. Come on, get some bikes going. Whew. They were the vanguard of the Great Crusade, the harbingers of its might. Ahead of the main armies, they scoured the battlefield, thinning the ranks of the weak and drawing the ire of the strong. Where others might falter, the White Scars pressed on, ensuring that no victory would come easy for their foes. Their role was not just to fight, but to carve a path for the Imperium's unstoppable advance, ensuring the way was clear for the legions that followed, leaving only the broken and the fallen in their wake. Their victories were the quiet foundation of 1,000 others, the unseen force that made the impossible possible. Jaghatai Khan's mastery of the battlefield, honed on the steppes of Chogoris, proved to be as devastating on the many worlds of the Great Crusade as it had been in his homeland. His tactics, swift, direct, and overwhelming, became the hallmark of the White Scars assault. They were at the forefront of the bloodiest campaign of the era, their name whispered with both fear and respect in the same breath. The Khan, always at the center, led with the same fierce drive, his legion a reflection of his own indomitable will. The Ulanor Crusade stands as the greatest testament to the might of the White Scars and their unyielding partnership with the Luna Wolves. The Orc Empire, led by Urlak Uruk, was shattered beneath the combined might of the Imperium's finest. In the aftermath of the victory, the Khan stood at the side of Horus Lupercal, watching as his brother ascended to the title of War Master. Their bond, forged in battle, had always been unspoken yet undeniable. Horus, the greatest of the Emperor's sons, was the only one with whom Jaghatai had shared more than just the blood of war. The triumph of Ulanor marked not only a victory, but a moment of shifting tides, as the Imperium's course set once again, this time with Horus at its helm, and not the Emperor. The Great Crusade continued, but now it was a relentless war led by a war master, and the White Scars would continue to carve their path ahead. Badasses. Just fucking badasses. Yep.
Yeah, I kind of just want to kill all the aliens in the galaxy and take it over and build a cool empire. But
Yeah, it's just
unfortunately, I'm only human.
it feels like they're kind of the just point in a direction and send them there, and then you're good. Like you don't have to do much. Just say go, and then boom, they're
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially at this point of the crusade, it's just like, everything's just go, go, go. If something comes up, there's probably a force that can take it. And yeah, these guys are gonna go rush and get to it first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the relationship with the Loon Wolves is super cool too. Horus kind of takes on a couple of these legions and befriends a couple of them, and it plays on later of why we don't know where they are gonna land in the heresy, the Khan and his men. Like, does he fall in the same kind of path as all the other guys who kind of befriend Horus, or not?
Time will tell.
Yes. All right. Let's take the next step in the path to damnation, the Council of Nicaea. The Council of Nicaea was a battleground of ideals, where the future of psychic power in the Imperium was at stake. Yet Jaghatai Khan, the swift and resolute of the White Scars, was not present. Called away on a campaign against the remnants of the Orc Empire in the Chondak system, he would never take part in the fateful deliberation that would shape the Imperium's destiny. The Khan had always been a pragmatist, seeing the realities of a war without the illusion of grandeur. His absence from the council was not merely circumstantial, it was deliberate. Magnus, the Crimson King, advocated for the unrestrained power of Psykers, presenting himself as a visionary, a prophet of untapped potential. But the Khan, ever vigilant, understood the perilous nature of the warp. On Chogoris, the power of the Psyker had been tempered by ancient wisdom, a knowledge passed down through generations of storm seers who walked the path of heaven. To unleash such raw potential without constraint was a path to madness, and one the Khan would never support. His people knew the cost of corruption intimately, a price paid by the few who reached too far into the warp and were consumed by it. Oh shit. Sorry, I clicked and it scrolled. In the heart of the council, a third voice emerged. Jaghatai Yasuge, a storm seer from the White Scars, proposing a middle ground. Psychic power could be wielded, but with discipline, rigor, and respect. The Khan's influence was evident in Yasuge's words. Calm, controlled, a weapon to be used with caution, not recklessness. Yet the Emperor's anger, stoked by Magnus's reckless advocacy for sorcery, drowned out the argument. The decision was made. The Librarius would be shut down, and the Psykers of the legions would be suppressed. The Khan's vision, one of balance and restraint, was rejected in favor of the purging fire that would forever alter the course of the Astartes. Yeah, so it's interesting that Jaghatai was sort of on Magnus's side, like, no, this is a crazy weapon we can use, like, we should take utility in it, but no.
Yeah. It
Magnus was
like,
too reckless.
yeah, but it goes back to, the Khan being that intellectual, like that's kind of the rope he wanted on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of just blanket bans, he's like, no, let's use a little bit of discretion. But that's not how the Imperium likes to do things.
And it rounds him out as a character again, kind of, because we always seem to paint him in this like ruthless killer, like go out, point and kill it and all that stuff. But he is pragmatic, like we've been saying. Liar said it in the chat, says it here. Like, he's a smart dude. He is a smart dude. And in this case, he's the balance. It's interesting, like that Jaghatai Khan, who's known for just like this fast, ruthless, tactics. He's the one that's kind of going, well, this
Let's think
could be
about this.
useful, but let's just think about this a little bit.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Let's stop and
Yeah.
think. Coming from a guy that's just go.
Yeah. Sometimes he enjoys a good rest.
Mhm.
He's just go, and he needs to have a little me time. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Jaghatai Khan, ever the silent observer, felt the weight of this decision. The Council of Nicaea should have never been left to Magnus. The Khan, a warrior Primarch, was the one who could have stood alongside Sanguinius and Magnus to argue for the tempering of psychic powers. His absence was not a mere coincidence. It was a quiet rebellion against the Emperor's refusal to acknowledge the complexities of the warp. The Imperium, steadfast in its denial, sought to control the future by suppressing knowledge. Yet the Khan saw the truth. The warp was an ever-present force, and to ignore it was to court disaster. See, there you go again. Like, he's being very clever about this. He sees how things are playing out. Like, as much as the Emperor is going to try, suppressing this is probably not going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
People are going to know about it. As the White Scars returned to their relentless pursuit of the Great Crusade, the Khan's mind remained fixed on the choice made at Nicaea. The hunt for the Greenskins in Chondax was no mere task, it was a test. The Khan had never balked at such challenges. He led his warriors across the battlefield, not for glory, but for the thrill of the chase. In the endless sweep of war, he understood that his true battle was not one of doctrine, but of survival. And in the hunt for the orcs and the endless churn of battle, Jaghatai Khan knew one thing above all. He would always be the hunter, relentless, no matter the course the Imperium chose. Sometimes life is that simple. You just need to be on a motorcycle slaughtering Xenos.
It can be that simple, eh? We just like to overcomplicate things.
Exactly. True happiness, true freedom lies in a spear and handlebars.
Yeah, the Council of Nicaea, hey, what a cool kind of place where it's just like, the Emperor, he's been trying so hard to just hide the warp from everyone, but you just can't hide something like that. And now
Mm,
people on the higher up are starting to have some questions, and the Emperor takes that hard nose approach again, and it's like, no, 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 we're not doing this. No warp shenanigans.
Yeah.
Thinking that's the best way, but really, man, it just kind of
Yeah, almost like
it.
suppressing knowledge is a bad thing.
Yeah, and
Um,
it also
yeah.
makes avenues for people to kind of like do bad things where, now Magnus and some other people have to hide it. And now you're creating kind of people like who are just doing bad things, even though they're just born that way to have those psychic powers. They just
Yeah.
want to be who they are.
There you go.
Psyker
Yeah.
rights.
Psycho
Yeah.
rights.
Start a new movement. Yeah, the other interesting thing too is like, again, in the relationships of Jaghatai Khan, you're like, okay, well, what's, if he's this deep thinker and an intellectual, of course he'd get along with Magnus, but no, he seems to resent that Magnus is like so crazy with his pursuit of knowledge. He sees the dangers, like Jaghatai Khan sees the dangers in the warp, and he's like, dude, you're like also insane in the other direction. Like, he wants like a middle road, but then you have these extremes at Nicaea of like either we ban everything or Magnus is advocating for like no holds barred. Let's just go deep into this.
Yeah.
And so again, like there's that tension. Like him and Magnus are probably not going to jive well either, even though they have that shared pursuit of knowledge.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
ultimately, he chooses to kind of latch back onto what his homeworld kind of taught him. And that's kind of his position typically. He's like, well, what do the storm seers do? Well, they like harness their power, they temper it, they use wisdom, there's training. Like, come on, we can do this. But no, just not quite. The Emperor had his own agenda.
As he does.
As
As
he
he
does.
does. And sometimes agenda without telling people what's going on. Like, I've got this
Yeah.
secret project that you're not going to learn about until later on.
If
Might
then,
be webways. I don't know. We'll see.
I'll never tell.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not, but might be.
Yeah, the storm seers are pretty cool. We kind of mentioned they're the librarians or the psychic users of the white scars.
Mhm.
We'll mention them briefly here. Maybe this is a good spot to kind of talk about how they draw their powers and all that kind of stuff. And it'll give us a little more clarity on the Council of Nicaea as well. So the storm seers of the white scars, although akin to traditional librarians, carry a legacy far older and more primal. Their origins trace back to the tribal holy men of Chogoris, who once rode with the Khan himself, guiding his rise to power. It was these seers, alongside the tribal chieftains, who declared him the Great Khan, a sovereign of the plains after his victory against the Palatine. Drawing their power from the untamed forces of Chogoris, they avoid the warp's malevolent grasp, grounding their might in the natural energies of their homeworld, much like the rune priests of the Space Wolves. For a decade, the Storm Seers returned to their roots, observing the warriors of their world, selecting the worthy to join the White Scars as Space Marines. When the Great Khan falls, they retreat to the Kumkatra Mountains, where the Brotherhood of Khan submit to trials so brutal that few survive, and those who do never speak of them. The method remains a mystery, but it is known that the Storm Seers hold the power to shape the future of the White Scars in their hand. Beyond their role as seers, the Storm Seers are the keepers of the White Scar's sacred tenets. They believe their chapter's duty is to obliterate the Emperor's enemies and to wait for his return. Well, we won't talk about that. Where does that kind of end? They stand as a bridge between the past and the world of Chogoris once thrived and the future, where their legend will reign again. For the White Scars, lightning is not just a symbol, it is a harbinger of strength, both in war and a mystic power. Their combat style, fast and brutal, mirrors a crackling storm, a reminder of the primal energies that they wield. The Storm Seals, wielding their stylized force staffs, channel this raw power, linking themselves to the spirits of the land and sky. It is the bond that ensures that the White Scars triumph, for as long as the elements fight alongside them, they remain invincible. Through the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy, the Stormseers stood as advisors to their Khans, mystics who guide their leaders with foresight and arcane knowledge. They were more than just warriors, they were spiritual and tactical backbone of the White Scars, shaping their path through the stars and the storm. So yeah, you can see just like how important these guys are, not only just for the population of Chogoris, those who aren't even White Scars, but also to the White Scars. And then to kind of have this like banished all of a sudden, you're like, hold on, this is like a tradition of my people for eons and eons. And also hold on, like we do it safe. Like we're not just casual about this. There's techniques that have been passed down, and we ground ourselves into the planet. And also we call upon the spirits of our ancestors to guide the power. A couple of these factors, and yeah, the Emperor just comes and strips it away.
So I have actually a question on that, and this also sort of applies to the Space Wolves, I guess, too, with their whole concepts of the weird and like drawing. They believe that they draw their warp power from the planet Fenris itself. Do you think these traditions are true and real and have an effect? Like, we kind of have a pseudo understanding of how the warp works. Can your ancestors influence things or protect you, or is it your belief in whatever system that actually protects you potentially?
Yeah, like all the rituals and stuff that they do, are those just like mind emptying kind of rituals where they don't actually purify your mind? It just kind of like you get in the focus of it, so then you're less corruptible, you're more able to do a psychic power, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I look at the orcs too, and the way they kind of have psychic powers, and we've talked about weird boys and how they have sticks and they channel wog energy through that, and if it gets too much, they're actually ground that staff into the earth and try to ground wog energy that way. So yeah, maybe the White Scars kind of are doing a similar way, where yeah, they're kind of not grounding, but maybe pulling the warp energy through the planet or something like that to kind of nullify it, or it. There could be a million different ways of how they
Sure.
do it.
My question is, do these techniques work, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
almost like when you talk about, like, let's say, like a strange shamanistic practice of some culture that, like, they say, some spirit does X thing, and then it turns out, like, scientifically something does happen. Let's say, I'm finding it hard to explain this. Like chewing on bark of, I forget what tree it is. Like, there's traces of acetaminophen in it, I think. So like you make a tea out of this bark, and it's supposed to like be a painkiller, right? But let's say you have some belief in the tree that the tree is doing this, right? But then it turns out scientifically, you analyze the tea, and it's like, okay, yeah, like there's acetaminophen in the tea, so it is acting like a painkiller. So it has a real life effect, but what
Yeah.
it's being ascribed to culturally is not the case, right?
That's
So
the
is
great
there,
mystery,
yeah, like,
right?
is that what's
That's
happening
what.
here? Or
Yeah, I don't think we should have an answer to that. I think in the sense of like that's what's great is like, is it this? Is it this? I don't know. I hope they never define that in this scenario too,
yeah.
because
All I
that's what's cool. I think.
all I know is every librarian Stormseer that I've seen a picture of uses a psychic hood. So it doesn't seem very protected if you're using that kind of technology to protect you. What, your planet not good enough all of a sudden? Maybe. Hard to say.
okay.
They got some cool minis
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, you raise a good point, Christian. I think that your kind of the thought process that you're going with is spot on, and it makes sense to kind of question that. I think that's explaining the fun mystery though of like, are they actually doing this because it's just the scientific thing, the way the warp works or whatnot, or is it actually kind of the I don't know, spiritual side of things? And that blending is just so fun though. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Why not have kind of the mystery of it,
Sure. Yeah. And I'm down for that too. Like, again,
Yeah.
I'm on that same side of like, let's not explain every detail in 40K. Let's leave some
Mhm.
mystery. But Yeah, like, I mean, they speak with it with such conviction of like, yeah, our ancestors are in the warp, like guiding us. But we also know that when people die, their souls get consumed. So is it that your belief in your ancestors is actually protecting their souls in the warp? Again, like that connection of the warp energy that all people emit? Or is it just straight up not true and something else is going on, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
fun.
that's religion in a nutshell. Truly. I'm wearing a necklace right now that one of my good friends gave me this. It's from New Zealand. It's made out of bone, and it's like a New Zealand god of protection. I don't,
Cool.
it's cool to think that. For me personally, I don't necessarily buy into it, but like, fuck it, why not wear it? That's rad.
Why
That's a
not?
rad notion. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Why not try sacrificing virgins if you think you'll bring you luck? Why not?
Yeah, people believe wacky things. There's people out there that think Nickelback is a good band. I don't know. I don't think that's true.
Sure.
I think they're
Do not
heretics.
impugn the reputation of Nickelback.
I just hell exists for a reason. I'm just gonna say that. Oh man.
Wait. Like, is Nickelback going to hell, or is it like the place for
And their
Nickelback
followers,
sound?
yes.
Yeah.
Or just starting a new religion.
Like, yeah. Okay. Well, that's where we're gonna leave kind of the story portion of this episode. We got a little bit more. We're gonna talk about his personality, appearance, and war gear. But yeah, that kind of is what happens to him in the Great Crusade. It isn't a whole lot. You get a couple really cool battles where it's these last holdouts of the galaxy that now they're conquering. But yeah, they weren't super influential. Like, not a whole lot happened. But yeah, let's dive into the personality and see kind of get a clearer picture of that.
Cool. So, this is a quote we have here. Actually, might be pulled from a book. I'll have to look into that. Even his brother Primarchs understood little of him. His prowess with the blade earns him respect, even as his waywardness causes them concern. Gilliman has never trusted him. Russ is exasperated by him. Lorgar despises him for an untutored savage. Only Horus sees him for what he truly is. They are kindred souls, those two. Warrior archetypes bound by shared codes of martial honor and impatient with the heavy fetters of empire. This is Scars by Chris Wright. I'm assuming that would be the book.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say a guy in 40K universe just named Chris Wright. Like, that doesn't sound right.
That would be great, but no.
No. Yeah, I think
name.
Right. There's I'll have to check it out. I'll have to definitely read this one. But there's 3 words that we continue to kind of use when we talk about the personality of Jaghatai Khan, which is like relentless, strategic, enigmatic. So continuing forward, it says Jaghatai Khan thrived in the chaos of the Great Crusade, reveling in the hunt that spanned the dark corners of the galaxy. To him, the crusade was not a campaign, but an endless chase, an infinite pursuit through the stars where victory was inevitable and death was a companion. He tore through battle after battle, laughing as he killed, never slowing, never faltering. Yet beneath his ferocity, the Khan was a creature of discipline, seeking perfection in every task. A little more Slanesh vibe there. I wonder if Slanesh was like, we're going to get this guy. We're going to get this fucker. We're going to get him.
I could also see Khorne wanting him too.
Oh,
just
for
with like
sure.
his whole like, I'm gonna burn this village to the ground and mount the heads on spikes. And Khorne's like, yes, do it
That's
for
my
me too.
guy. Yeah. Yeah, the honor vibe. The more I read of this, the more I'm like, man, they probably wanted him bad. And I'm a
Yeah.
little surprised when we keep talking about the friendship he had, the kinship with him and Horus, that it just kind of didn't happen. But anyways, continuing on. So, beneath the ferocity, the Khan was a creature of discipline, seeking perfection in every task, no matter how simple. His strength lay not in the brute force alone, but in the quiet mastery of his craft, the flawless strike of his blade, the deftness of his diplomacy. He required no adulation, only the satisfaction of precision, whether in war or in word. Slaanesh vibe. The Great Khan was a shadow among the Primarchs, elusive and distant, drawn not to the glory of conquest or the grandeur of command, but to the purity of the chase. A little less Slaanesh there. While others sat in war rooms and strategium halls, he remained hidden, letting his actions speak in silence. He did not seek an empire or carve his name into the annals of history. Instead, his work shaped the Imperium with a subtle, relentless hand. When the flames of civil war ignited and Horus's treachery tore the Imperium asunder, few looked to Jaghatai Khan. His loyalty was taken for granted by those who assumed they knew him, and demanded by those who had once fought by his side. The Khan's allegiance was never in question, though none foresaw the most decisive moment when his choices would alter the galaxy's fate. In the end, when the Khan made his decision, when the White Scars chose their path, it shook the foundations of the Imperium. With swift resolve, his actions preserved the Imperium. His actions preserved the Emperor's dream, holding back the ruin that threatened to engulf humanity. The Khan, the elusive master of the hunt, had once again chosen the way that would save them all, not through grand speeches or decisive battles, but with the quiet, unyielding certainty of his relentless pursuit. Yep.
Which was unity, man. Like he
Yep.
just wants the galaxy united, and he probably is bummed out a little bit that he's not at the head of this unification, but at least he's still there. And maybe he's okay with kind of being that back end guy, for the most part. Like it's not like he wanted those parades and all that kind of stuff. Like he said, it's not like he was Porterabo. He's like, why don't I just get acknowledged? He's there to do his job,
Yeah, even on Chogoris, he's not seeking glory, he's seeking unity. It's for a greater purpose. And I think you're right, Mark. Like after reading this, I was like, it still doesn't give much of like why he would just stick with it. But I think you're right. It's for, I was just going to say the greater good, but I didn't want to speak Tao there. So I think you're right.
Yeah,
It is
and
it is the unity.
And it's this fun thing that happens too. Like you get these demigods who are unstoppable, and basically he has to make the choice. He knows the galaxy has choices, and they have different outcomes, and he has to make the right one. Otherwise, a horrible fate meets him. And like I kind of said earlier in the episode, he kind of understands what the galaxy is. It's like it's a violent place. It's gonna come after you if you're not strong enough. It's gonna crush you. There's all these forces that are going to try to make you do things, and sometimes you just don't have a choice in the matter, even if you're a demigod.
Yeah.
It's that pragmatism that you're talking about again, right? Like you can wish the galaxy was a certain way, or if it was different, or have like higher aspirations, but like he recognizes it for what it is, and then he works within the bounds of reality, right?
Yeah.
This is the next step. This is the side I have to choose for, like Court said, for the greater good. I will strike again.
I'm trying to think of a way we could word that instead of like it's the better wellness.
Trademark that quickly.
Is the greatest,
the worst bad name that you've ever.
The better wellness.
Better wellness.
All right, let's talk about his appearance. Jaghatai Khan was a towering figure, his physique sculpted by both genetics and the crucible of endless war. His features were sharp and commanding, high cheekbones, a strong jaw, and piercing eyes that gleamed with the untamed fire of the steppe. His long dark hair flowed like a mane, often braided in the style of his people, while his skin, bronzed by Chogoris' harsh elements, bore the faint scars of countless battles. Draped in the wildfire panoply, his artificer armor shimmered with the ivory and crimson, adorned with the swirling motifs of storms and galloping beasts, each stroke a testament to speed and ferocity. Every movement of the Khan was fluid, effortless, as if the wind itself carried him, and when he rode to battle astride his Sojutsu pattern void bike, he was less a man and more a force of nature. Thunder and lightning given form.
Yeah, cool.
His-
Yeah, you kind of go back to why is he Asian, but ultimately it doesn't matter, but it will still haunt me at night.
He again, like if you look at the official art, I don't think it's super clear. They kind of like sometimes he is and sometimes he's not. Which again, like it's not strictly Mongolian. Like there are other influences too.
Sure.
In his style. One interesting note though about his official model, which I believe I'm looking at. I hope that's his official model. Otherwise, what I'm about to say is totally wrong. He seems to have a lion as a prominent symbol on his chest, which is kind of strange. I'm not sure. Like lion, it makes sense for Lionel Johnson or for Dark Angels, but
Sure.
it seems like an odd icon for the Khan.
Yeah.
Oh, is this the Horus Heresy model?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, he's got the big gold lion emblem,
like very prominent on his chest.
Yeah.
If anyone in the chat knows what that's about, maybe it's mentioned somewhere. But yeah, it's funny. I remember like when the Horus Heresy novels were first being published, and like Forge World hadn't released images. Like even the Primarchs themselves, like what they looked like wasn't super clear. We had a handful of images from like some Primarchs, like Angron. Demon Angron was depicted, I believe, in a white dwarf officially a while ago. So like there were a handful that you knew what they looked like or had ideas of what they could look like, but others weren't ever like really set in stone. Jaghatai Khan was one of those ones with really old. Who's that big GW artist? Like classic GW.
John Blanche.
Yeah, I believe it's a Blanche piece. Like it's on that same kind of paper and style. There was a picture of Jaghatai in that, and other than that, though, like again, you don't really have those. That art style is also very kind of hard to read. But his image has existed for a while.
I see the one you're talking about, the John Blanche one.
Yeah, and he's got like an actual bow and arrows on his hip, and that prominent top knot is very signature of the White Scars generally, but specifically Jaghatai Khan. Horus and his legion, well, not Horus himself, he's bald, but his legion also seemed to favor the top knot as well. But just trying to give a fuller, well-rounded picture as best as we can do via audio. If not, if you want to see him, subscribe to the video podcast. But,
he's cool. That's some cool artwork.
I remember a time when you had to kind of what? Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to mention, I remember a time where you had to kind of like imagine what these Primarchs might look like because there was no official depictions.
Yeah.
For some of them.
Yeah. Another way to describe the way he looks is with his war gear. So I could read that off. He has the wildfire panoply, a masterpiece of both form and function. The Kagan's artificial armor is a flawless fusion of elegance and indomitable protection. Sculpted for speed, it mirrors the Khan's ruthless style of warfare, designed with systems that enhance his legendary reflexes to near unhuman degree. Every movement, every strike is calculated to perfection, wrapped in the unyielding shell of his personal battle plate. The White Tiger Dao. The Khan's weapon, the saber-like blade honed for close combat, embodies the lethal grace of a predator. It's designed part of the very soul of the White Scars, allows the Khan to wield it effortlessly from the seat of his uh, Sojutsu pattern void bike, making him a blur of motion on the battlefield, cutting through enemies with unmatched precision and deadly intent. He also has Storm's voice, and this is an artifact of the Dark Age, an archetype las pistol, and is a relic bestowed by the Emperor himself. A deadly weapon, it channels lightning into searing blasts, obliterating foes with a power few can withstand. The storm it summons mirrors the Khan's fury, a relentless force that cleaves through opposition with cold inevitability. He's got frag grenades, which are always fun. A necessary tool in the Khan's arsenal. These grenades are, everyone knows what frag grenades are. They're fucking grenades, man. And the final cool thing he's got is his Sojutsu pattern void bike. And it's a Khan's favored mount, a prototype long before its time. This pattern void bike is no mere jet bike. It is an ultra-light fighter craft capable of deep space maneuverability and unparalleled speed. With thrusters that grant limited flight and incredible agility, it is an extension of Khan himself, carrying him through the chaos of battle as a force of nature. Just picturing him and a bunch of Khans flying through fucking space together on their motorbikes, their jet bikes, that's fun as they raid enemy ships. Yeah.
Yeah. When you read it earlier on and called it a void bike, I was like, what the heck does that mean? I know about jet bikes. Is that supposed to be a kind of jet bike? Why would they call it a void bike? Now we know.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
That's a cool picture, man. I picture Clone Wars too, the old animated movie where they had that like creature of worms or whatever, and all those bikes and shit like just zipping around. The White Scars are very cool with their motorbikes and just what they're kind of get up to.
You want to know one of the biggest travesties about GW?
Huh?
The fact that they don't sell a Jaghatai Khan on a jet bike.
Yeah, what is that?
Oh, yeah.
Even Corsaro can. No motorbike for him, but we get the Raven Ring Samuel and his jet bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what? You can sell a whole extra model for all those White Scar players, all 10 of them.
Hate crimes are a real thing. Like, we got to be aware of this.
Sure.
And they'll never go away. They'll always be here to make us angry, especially GW.
Yeah. The thing we were talking about in the chat a little bit earlier, me and some of the guys were saying one of the kind of shit things is like, I think it's cool, and I'm sure we're all kind of in agreement here. Like the white is rad, like the white paint scheme is cool. People don't want to paint white though. That's I think what really keeps a lot of players from diving into White Scars. Like bikes are sick. I think one of the things too early on, and I was looking at it in the 3rd edition rule book that I've got here, my trusty 40K Bible, but like bikes were expensive, and I don't necessarily mean points wise. Like I mean like actually expensive. Like when you were starting to play 40K in earlier editions, and even now they're not super prevalent, but like it's an expensive army to kind of get into in the sense of like you're going to buy a ton of bikes and you're going to do it that way. It's rad. It's very cool. One of the other things also was like, I remember back in the day was like, do you put a bike on a base? Where do you measure from the bike? Like it's one of those little bit nebulous, like they used to have, you sometimes would see the bikes on a fantasy rectangular base, and that's what you kind of measured from. It was weird. So there was this like, I don't know if I want to do it that way. And Purge, I know you're asking, couldn't you just prime things white? Absolutely. 100%. You absolutely could. I would very much encourage you not to leave primer though. Like always paint over it. Even if you prime it white, paint it white. Just do another like actual paint coat. Like we're going to get in a little bit of the hobby stuff here too, is like I never use actual white unless I'm highlighting something that's supposed to be white. Like I use Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White. It's greatest white paint I've ever used in my life. Amazing. You could cover black with it. It's so good. You could prime black and cover with it. I never use it as a base because you can never go whiter from there. It's like the classic Spinal Tap, like 11. Well, this one goes to 11. If you need just, you're all the way up, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. Where do you go from here? 11. Exactly. It's that, like, when you paint white, you do off white and then highlight with actual white. So there we go.
Yeah,
That was a rant
100%.
on the hobby side, but yeah.
No, 100% echo what you're saying, man. My Space Marines aren't all white, but they feature some white parts. And I paint clone troopers for Star Wars Legion, which are obviously white. And I always paint off white. A, because with the paints I use, you just get better coverage with the off white. And then B, like you said, you can highlight that off white. The other risk with priming with white is that if you do things like washes or if you do other techniques where you might accidentally get paint spilled over onto a white section, it is a pain to fix.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So. I used to often. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mark. Yeah, I've been chatting a lot. Go for it.
Now, my white technique is you spray paint it white, and then you hit that bitch with like a purity seal or like a varnish, and then you give that bitch an oil wash, and it just runs right off that into all the cracks. I did my Tau that way, and like all those sleek white armor panels just like drop a little oil and it shoots into all the cracks. So you don't even have to paint them. So yeah, there's
100%.
definitely ways around the white nowadays. For sure.
That's exactly what I do with my Necrons, because my Necrons are black and white. And I do the reductive technique. So like they're primed white, but then I paint them black and keep some of the white, and then I'll paint over the white primers and off white, but seal it. I'll do a gloss varnish, and then I'll take the secret beautiful sauce of AK Interactive Streaking Grime, and I will coat that shit. But it's protected, like you said, because you did a like an enamel seal over it. You did like a varnish, and then boom, as soon as I drop something on it, like the streaking grime flows right into the recesses, and
like it has a mind of its own.
Yeah, and then you remove it, and it's like it was never there. If you want that flat panel to be really that color it was before, but yeah, you got to protect it with something first.
Yeah. No, man, it's been a while since I painted. Now I want to go paint something.
God, I love talking about the hobby stuff, man. Like, I know we talk lore so much, but like, I would just love a fucking hobby episode where we can just dig into it.
Okay. I think I know the guy we can talk to, and that's me. So we can make that happen.
All right. Good.
I've never seen your black and white Necron, and that seems like such a cool kind of combo of something you don't really see often.
Thanks.
You have to send me a picture.
I will post it in the Tithe channel on the Discord if you want to see it.
Very nice.
I'll post a few of them. They're slow painting, so like it's I fucking picked the easiest army to paint and made it the hardest army to paint.
That'll happen, but what do you?
And I'm using Tau decals on them too. Like I really like the cool red Tau decals, and I like cut some of them off and use them on there as markings. Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, you definitely have to send me them.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're pretty much at the end of the episode. We chewed up the last couple minutes of calling there with hobby talk.
You're really gonna do that? It's a spaghetti set. He's been begging the whole episode to call in.
You know, we're at the start of this journey of white scars and the can and all that. Man, it's fucking 12 a.m. where I am. You know what's super cool, boys? Daylight savings next week, which brings us an hour closer together. So, that is delightful.
Like the Khan uniting his tribes.
Bring
us together.
Yes, exactly. But until then, whatever. Then we'll be 2 hours apart. But no, it's late. We're gonna call it here. You can call in on the next episode and Yeah, we do love the call-ins, but sometimes it goes long. And notes, if you want to come listen to Homebrew Lore, come check out Lorehammer Listen to the Lord podcast. Lots of homebrew lore on there. It's a lot of fun. Come check it out.
Yeah. And if you guys wanted to hear a little bit more from me, season 1 of the Funkatronic Rex podcast. I'm your host at the most, did it all and whatnot. They just came out with season 2. Spoiler, I'm not on there, but still good friends of mine. So please check it out, the Funkatronic Rex podcast. Yeah.
And if you are also looking to tickle your ears with more podcasting love, check out the Pokélore podcast, where we do a deep dive into Pokemon. And by we, I mean myself and another co-host of mine. That's a newer project, still experimental. We'll see where it goes. We'll see how deep we get into the Pokemon universe.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'm going to town tomorrow, and I have an episode of Pokélore downloaded, so
Excellent.
Be prepared for some critiques, we'll put it that way.
I look forward to it.
All right, everyone. Well, it was fun. We'll see you guys tomorrow at around 7:30 EST, CST, whatever. It's in the chat. We'll see you all later. Adios.